Call the meeting to order for Wicomico County Council Legislative Session 2025-18 for September 16th, 2025. Those who'd like to stand and join us, please, in the Lord's Prayer of a pledge of allegiance, please do.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think most of you will notice that the flags were at half-staff last week. That was in honor of Charlie Kirk, who was tragically shot and killed last week. So I'd like to, if we could, have a moment of silence in recognition of Mr. Kirk and his family. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd also like to have, if we could, a moment of silence for Mr. Bill Middleton. Mr. Bill Middleton he served for 40 years in our public school system. His last 7 years was actually superintendent of our Wicomico County schools. I think that we should recognize that. So if we could, please, a moment of silence for Mr. Middleton. Thank you. Thank you very much. First item we have on the agenda is a consent agenda. Entertain a motion from council to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? Second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Consent agenda passes. At this time, we have a proclamation to recognize the month of September as Suicide Prevention Month. We have Ms. Christina Freehand from the Life Crisis Center, as well as Ms. Melanie Smith. The proclamation will be read by James Wynn, Councilman James Wynn. If you want to go to the podium with Councilman Wynn, we'd appreciate that. Melanie, it looks like it's just going to be you.
That's perfectly fine, right? This is a proclamation for National Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas suicide remains the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. And whereas over 90% of the people who die by suicide have a diagnosable and treatable mental health condition, although often that condition is not recognized or treated. And whereas organizations such as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention are dedicated to saving lives and bringing hope to those affected by suicide through education, advocacy, and resources for those who have lost someone to suicide or who struggle. And whereas the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention urges that we recognize suicide as a preventable public health problem, address the disparities in access to mental health care, promote awareness that suicide most often occurs when stressors exceed someone's coping ability, and implement strategies to improve access to quality mental health, substance abuse, and suicide prevention services and programs. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council hereby designates September as National Suicide Prevention Month in Wicomico County. Do you want to say anything?
If I have a minute?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Council President Cannon, council members, and members of our community. I want to thank you for recognizing Suicide Awareness Week here in Wicomico County, and I'm honored to accept this proclamation, not for myself, but for families who live with the pain of suicide, and for those who are still silently struggling. So when I reached out to County Executive Julie Giordano last week, I didn't expect my name to be on a proclamation. I just reached out to her and I said, hey, can we do something as a county to recognize suicide awareness. She's like, yep, I'll take care of it. And then I get a call that my name is going to be on a proclamation. So that's not what I was looking for, but in my heart, I just wanted to see our county work together to raise awareness and save lives. I'm one person, and some of you know I can be loud at times, but we need to work together and make a difference. This cause is deeply personal to me. 4 years ago next week, my nephew, Corporal Jason Matthew Young of the United States Marine Corps, died by suicide. Jason was a 1996 graduate of Parkside High School. He served in Afghanistan both as a Marine and later returned as a contractor, continuing to serve even after his active duty ended. After his time overseas, Jason moved to Texas, where he poured his heart into supporting fellow veterans. He became one of the youngest post commanders of his local VFW, a role he embraced with pride, leadership, and love for his community. Jason was also a beloved stand-up comic in the Dallas, Texas area. He had a gift for making people laugh, even while fighting a war off of the battlefield. His loss is a reminder that behind every smile, there can be a silent struggle. And behind every uniform, there's a human being who deserves our support and understanding and our action. Jason was a son, he was a brother, a husband, a father, a grandson, a nephew, an uncle, a cousin, and a friend to all. He is loved and missed tremendously. Suicide cannot be undone, and that's why prevention matters so deeply. Every day, an estimated 22 veterans take their lives. That number is a statistic. It's a call for us to do more. I want to thank Life Crisis for also standing here with me today and for the vital work that they do in our community. And I thank our county leadership for recognizing the importance of this week. Suicide prevention begins with awareness, but it must lead to compassion, connection, and care. I ask each of you to let this proclamation become a commitment, not just this week on a day, but every day. If you or someone you know is struggling, get help. If you are unable to get the help for a loved one, don't keep it a secret. There are resources available like Life Crisis 24/7. We need to stand by those who feel alone, and together we could save a life. Thank you.
I think I'm just, sorry, a little ill-prepared. My name's Jessica Hill. I'm here with Annie and Merlin from Life Crisis Center. We just wanted to thank you for recognizing September Suicide Prevention Month. Every day we're trying to lower the stigma of suicide. We take over, so far this year, we've had over 40,000 calls. Not all suicide-based, but most of them are crisis-related. So the more it's talked about, the more people know that there's help out there, the more we can try to help other people. So if you know anyone that needs help, please let them know that 988 is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. She wants a picture. Probably right here in front.
Yep, y'all can come up.
Come right in front of the podium. Here you go.
Thank you.
Two, Laura.
Yeah, one for each group. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Benson, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. President, County Council. First item is Legislative Bill 2025-12. It's a public hearing on an act to amend Chapter 138 of the Wicomico County Code titled Electrical Standards to reflect the current edition of the National Electrical Code and to amend the process of promulgation of future editions. Mr. Andrew Illuminati from the County Law Department is here should council have any questions.
This time we open the floor for public hearing on legislative bill number 2025-12. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in regard to this specific legislation, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Concludes the public hearing on legislative bill number 2025-12. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill number 2025-12.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Any questions for Mr. Illuminati? Any comments? Seeing none, I will do a roll call. All those in favor say aye, opposed nay, starting with Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Councilman Hastings.
Aye.
Councilman Wynn.
Aye.
Councilman Shields.
Aye.
Councilman Ennis.
Aye.
Vice President Merritt.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative Bill number 2025-12 passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Benson. Good morning, Ms. Hurley.
Morning, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. There has been one change to today's agenda, and that is the work session with Talkie Communications on broadband will not be held. We will reschedule that for a future meeting. Next on the agenda is a public hearing on resolution number 137-2025. This is amending the fiscal year 2026 operating budget and position control document and paying classification plan to create a new position for the Department of Public Works, Roads Division, and the corresponding salary. This request is to create a new Community Litter Program Coordinator position classified at grade M35 with an annual salary of $52,002. This request is to create the position and transfer the funding for the to the Roads Division. And we have Pam Olin here, Director of Finance, and Scott Green, Superintendent of Roads.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. If you want to sit down if you want. This time, we have the floor for a public hearing on Resolution 137-2025. If you have any comments you'd like to make in regard to this specific resolution, come to the podium. Please state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Concludes the public hearing on Resolution 137-2025. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 137-2025.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Good morning.
Good morning. As you're well aware, we had conversations during the budget process about roadside litter, and the department wanted to evaluate what they felt was the best needs and the best fit for this to move forward. And as such, this evaluation has been completed, and we are recommending that we implement the title of a community litter coordinator. This has gone through the Bolton, and so it has been graded. We are looking to, it would be a new position, so it is a new position control number, it is a new title, and thus we are asking for it to be funded from contingency to start on October 2nd with the next pay period.
Council.
So, looking back at the minutes from the work session that we had back in March, when we talked about this, it says that the duties for this position were going to be reassigned to other employees, and so there'd be no additional cost to the county. And I guess I'll quote this: I believe the fiscally intelligent thing to do would be recognize these duties, but that's all been done, and to have the existing recycling coordinator take on the work. I think there's been some personnel changes over there in the past several days. Do you think we should pause this until we get a better handle on what's going on over there?
So,
If I could, if you could both introduce yourselves. I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Green, just as normal, so the public recognizes who you are. And congratulations.
Pam Olin, Finance Director.
Scott Green, Superintendent of Roads.
Thanks.
So during those discussions, ultimately, the recycling coordinator position is in the solid waste division, which is a fully funded enterprise fund. So as such, ultimately, even if we eliminated a position at solid waste, which they, after further reevaluation since that period of time, since that work session, they feel they still need the recycling coordinator position. Even if we had eliminated the position at solid waste, the general fund would have had to increase because you can't transfer between solid waste and general fund because solid waste funds itself. So if I made that statement back in, I honestly don't remember, but if I made that statement back in March, I apologize, but we can't transfer between funds without any financial impact. And then, since that time, we have been looking, solid waste is requesting to keep their recycling coordinator position. So we are looking to potentially place the person who had been in the recycling coordinator position in this position if it's created for the litter control, and then they would still hire their recycling coordinator. They would, but at this moment, the person who is potentially doing some of these duties is being funded out of solid waste and should be funded out of roads, which will have an impact on the general fund. And I don't believe pausing it will change the duties that we think that need to be assigned to create the position that council was looking for.
Is this a full-time position?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes, we keep talking about a recycling coordinator, and we've closed recycling stations. I don't understand.
I'm not going to go into that
I know
aspect.
that. I understand. It's not under your umbrella.
That is not the item up for discussion today.
Anyway,
I just have one statement to make. I just left a meeting yesterday. The person we have now in the recycling, who's been there for years, why can't we promote that person in that position? Why create another position?
Well, again, the
Why you haven't-
recycling coordinator position is in solid waste. The litter control is in roads. Those are two different funds. They're two different funding sources. So I'm not sure, there's
Why
no,
can't you combine the two and make that person, I understand moving funds, but why can't you keep a person instead of hiring another person? In other words,
because
that's what I'm saying.
ultimately it was determined that the activities needed for both of those positions are more than a half-time position. So if you're looking for us to create a litter control coordinator to help with the roadside litter, that is a full-time position, and the recycling coordinator with the duties that are assigned associated with that, that's a full-time position. The jobs, if they were split, could be funded 50-50 out of both departments, but you're only going to get 50% of the work, and something is going to fall down.
Question? Scott, can you just quickly just go over the job duties of this new position?
Yes, the new position would entail like reaching out to the community, along with along with working with roads, like as they do, as we have been doing in the past, for roadside litter, but mainly reaching out to different communities and stuff like that.
Will they participate in any of the roadside cleanup? Or are they just an organizer? Is that what I'm?
I mean, at the moment, they would be helping facilitate organizing and getting that litter collected.
Mr. Merritt, can you, I don't want to put you on the spot, can you further explain, was it said back then that we,
Please do.
was it basically said that we wouldn't need any extra funding for this if this transpired, this whole operation transpired the way it did?
That's what I'm kind of confused about in this work session, that we've got the minutes from it. This position was asked for in the FY26 budget, and we were told it wasn't necessary, that job duties can be reassigned. So I'm wondering what changed between March 18th and now, outside of the leadership challenges that we're all trying to work through here.
Again, I don't remember participating in that work session about the funding aspects. If I did, I apologize, but I don't remember participating. As such, I am not sure that it was asked of me that you can move something from solid waste to the general fund and have no impact. That's not something that can actually financially happen. the general fund has to pay for it out of general fund revenues. Solid waste has to pay for it out of solid waste revenues. Solid waste can't pay for a position in the general fund. And as such, even if we decide that we do not need the recycling coordinator position, which I'm not suggesting we don't, even if we make that decision, solid waste would see a savings, general fund would see an increase. I can't cross them due to accounting rules.
So just for the record, you didn't make these statements. A former county employee made them.
So again, I can't correct what was stated, but I can I can state now that if we want this position, this is the way we have to accomplish it. If council determines that a litter control coordinator is not something they want at this time, then the general fund would not make any contributions, and the person who we're looking at potentially putting in this role would go back to a position at solid waste.
I believe we were told that the person that we are currently working with this litter cleanup program would be transferred to roads July 1st. It's now September 16th, and we're not sure who is where and what they're doing. There's a lot of uncertainty, so
Again,
I think I'm going to make a motion that we table this until we
I
get
don't,
some sort of handle on who's doing what.
Motion to table, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. No discussion. All those in favor of the tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution number 137, 2025 has been tabled.
I will be honest, I'm not sure what additional information I can provide to council versus what has already been provided.
I appreciate it. We'll have another opportunity for that as well, Ms. Solon. Thank you.
Okay, next is a public hearing on resolution number 138-2025. This is amending the fiscal year 26 operating budget and position control document to create a new position for the Department of Public Works Road Division and corresponding salary. This request is to transfer a position titled Department Assistant from Engineering to the Roads Division at grade M32 at the annual salary of $32,469.
Entertain a motion from council. Oh, I'm sorry. At this time, we have a public hearing on Resolution 138, 2025. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in regard to this specific resolution, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Includes a public hearing on Resolution 138, 2025. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 138, 2025. Second?
Second.
Discussion.
So this is a no impact to the general fund. We were looking at duties, and it made more operational sense to have this department assistant in the roads division versus Public Works Engineering here in the building. So it is literally a dollar for dollar transfer between two departments within the general fund, and putting the position in the place that makes most operational sense.
Questions from council members?
This is just an administrative type position, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who does that work now?
It is work that is done by the department assistant, and again, the work is being done by a department assistant that's being funded out of engineering.
Oh, okay. All right.
So again, it made more sense to put it in the department that they're doing the work for.
So is this a full salary or an addition to an existing salary?
So the position is fully funded in the general fund. Because we're looking to move it in October, we're moving 3/4 of the budget for the fiscal year from Public Works Engineering to Public Works Roads. So the position is a full-time position, has full-time benefits, but again, the position operationally is doing more work for roads than they are for engineering.
Question. My question is in concern of the person. It's going to be the same person, I imagine, that's just going to move over?
Yes.
My question is in the past, I don't know, maybe it's different now, but like, is that gonna mess that person up on the scale? It won't? Okay.
Again, same title, same grade, same step that they were on, same longevity. They're not changing. Again, that's why we're saying it's literally just moving out of Department 24 into Department 50.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I appreciate what the administration is doing in regard to both of these positions, and I understand both of these and the fact that it's, with this one here, you're just transferring. My concern, though, is I would like to make sure that before we take any measures on either one of these resolutions, that we have someone in place as far as a director or a deputy director of Public Works. Because I think anytime we're doing something to this degree, and we all want to recycle, we all want this coordinator. We recognize the fact that the litter coordinator is very important to this county. But who that individual may or may not be and who this individual may or may not be, I think should be the responsibility of either a director of Public Works or the acting director of Public Works. Because this time we do not have that in place, and I really would feel more confident if we had that position solidly put into place to be able to make those decisions for that department. I think that's what's very important for this county.
So ultimately, these positions report up through the supervisors of those divisions. So again, they aren't a direct report to either the director, the deputy director, or director. This position, if transferred, would report up through Scott.
Understand.
So again, it is a position that we're requesting. It is council's determination as to whether or not we move it or not.
I understand, and this is no different from Mr. Scott. We appreciate what you're doing and your work as well. I just would like to see more stabilization, a more stable structure in Public Works before we begin moving jobs around and creating new positions, different change in responsibilities. That's just me personally.
I'll just echo the same thought, and I was going to say the same thing for the litter control, in that we are without both either a Public Works Director or Deputy Director, it seems, and it would seem like to me neither of these changes are urgent. They're important, but they can wait long enough, I would think, in order to find that much greater job or much more important job of the director itself, and let that person have the ability to have input and make decisions on some of those positions.
I don't know if I'm asking the right people the right question, but when we don't have a Public Works Director or a Deputy Director, who's actually in charge of Public Works?
The Director of Administration.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of Resolution 138, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Chair is opposed. Resolution 138, 2025 does not pass by a vote of 5 to 2.
For the record, can I just, who was in favor?
I think Josh and James, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Green, thank you.
Okay, next for your consideration is Resolution Number 139-2025. This is approving a zoning waiver for the City of Fruitland, Cedar Park, Camden Avenue annexation in the City of Fruitland. And we have Tracy Taylor here, Director of Department of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 139, 2025.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Tracy Taylor, Director, Department of Planning Zoning.
Do you have any statements that you want to make? I mean, we recognize what this is. It's a simple annexation that the City of Fruitland
Yes.
has already agreed upon, and we're just simply giving it our blessing, for
Yes.
lack of better words.
This is another case like you had with the City of Salisbury with Pine Way and Chestnut Way, where state law says that if the proposed municipal zoning is substantially different than the existing county zoning, it requires a waiver by the county elected officials. And in this case, it does need a waiver because the residential intensity and variety of uses, plus it potentially increases density by greater than 50%. State law says it needs a waiver. So we're recommending that.
All right, any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of Resolution 139, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, resolution passes unanimously. Thank you
you.
very much.
Okay, the next item for business is Resolution Number 140-2025. This is to approve the transfer of funds between the major categories of the Board of Education annual budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 in the amount of $837,000.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 140, 2025.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Resolution 140, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, resolution passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the submission of appointments to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council by Mr. Stephen Lakin, Assistant Director of Administration, and Michelle Hardy, Chair of the Wicomico County Behavioral Health.
Lakin, how are you, sir?
I'm well, Mr. President. How are you?
Good, good.
Members of the council, good morning.
Morning.
All right,
Steve Lakin, Assistant Director of Administration.
all right. And you have submissions.
I do. First, the county executive recommends the appointment of Dagan Allen to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council, and I'm formally submitting her credentials for your consideration. The commission supports planning, policy, workforce development, and services to ensure a coordinated quality system of care that is outcome-guided and integrates prevention, recovery, evidence-based practices, and cost-effective strategies that enhance behavioral health across the state. Wicomico County Health Officer Matthew McConaughey is in attendance and available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Did you want to submit all the names, and then I'll go through all the resolutions?
Sure.
Yeah, let's
Sure.
do that. That would be best.
Yeah,
that-
there's a few of them.
Thank you.
Next, the county executive recommends the appointment of Jeanette Alvis to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council, and I'm formally submitting her credentials for your consideration. The executive also recommends the appointment of Jessica Pruitt to the County Behavioral Health Council. In addition, the executive recommends the appointment of Dr. Leslie L. Maddox to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council. County executive also recommends the appointment of Shelley Fitzgerald to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council. And finally, the county executive recommends the appointment of Tammy L. Griffin to the Wicomico Behavioral Health Council.
Thank you, Mr. Lakin. Thank you for your submissions.
Right before you is Resolution Number 141-2025. This is confirming the appointment of Deegan Allen to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council.
Any motion from council to approve Resolution 141, 2025? Second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, resolution passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution Number 142-2025, confirming the appointment of Jeanette M. Alvis to the Wicomico Behavioral Health Council.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 142, 2025.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, resolution passes.
Next is 143-2025, confirming the appointment of Jessica Pruitt to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 143, 2025.
Moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, resolution passes.
Next is Resolution Number 144-2025, confirming the appointment of Dr. Leslie L. Maddox to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 144, 2025. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 144, 2025 passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution Number 145-2025, confirming the appointment of Shelley L. Fitzgerald to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 145, 2025.
Moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution Number 146-2025, confirming the appointment of Tammy L. Griffin to the Wicomico County Behavioral Health Council.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 146, 2025. Second? And just have a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I have just
Jenny?
a quick question. All these people are any minorities on the board?
Matthew McConaughey, Wicomico County Health Department Health Officer. Sorry, minorities on the board? Was
Are
the
there any on this behavioral?
Yes. Our vice chair is an African-American male. The Dr. Leslie Maddox is a African-American female, and we have various others throughout.
Okay,
the board.
because I get those questions, how you get on the boards, I want to make sure.
So
Yeah.
Dr. Maddox was in reach through the NAACP for a parent or caregiver in the community. All others that were nominated today or put forth today were the decision of their organizations because they're on who should be a part of the committee.
It's fine.
Thank you, Mr. McConaughey. Yes.
I just want to acknowledge this slate that we've had put forward, once again, really well-qualified folks who are, it's clearly what they do, what they care about, and so I really appreciate having a really broad, diverse, dynamic group put forward. Thank you.
All those in favor of Resolution 146, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a submission of appointments/reappointments to the Wicomico County Police Accountability Board by Mr. Bunky Luckman, Director of Administration.
Hey, good morning,
Morning,
everyone.
gentlemen.
So this morning we have,
If you could just state your names just for the public record.
Bunky Luffman, Director of Administration.
Thank you.
Andrew Illuminati, Department of Law.
Thank you.
So this morning, as Ms. Hurley said, we have some Police Accountability Board, but also an Administrative Charging Committee appointment. And how the Police Accountability Board works, or there's actually 3 different committees that do 3 different things, and their makeup is different. The Accountability Board, which are the first submissions we're giving, is a 9-member board that are appointed with a confirmation process with council. They hold quarterly meetings with heads of law enforcement agencies and work with law enforcement agencies in the county government to improve matters of policing. They also receive complaints of police misconduct filed by members of the public on a quarterly basis and review outcomes of disciplinary matters considered by the charging committee. Andrew, since you wrote the law, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair representation of what the Police Accountability Board's duties are. And then the Administrative Charging Committee is the one that, after the complaint's filed, reviews the investigative file, can conduct our own independent investigation, and makes recommendation of whether to charge or not to charge administratively the law enforcement officer, and then subsequently notify the complainant of the process going forward.
And then we do not have any appointments up, but just to give a full process, the final board is the trial board. Like I said, we don't have anyone in front of there, but it is sort of like a Russian nesting doll where there's
Correct.
3 different intertwined boards. So formally submitting for reappointment Deanne Hall to the Police Accountability Board. Or would you like, Ms. Hurley, would you like me to read?
Yes, if you don't mind.
And then formally resubmitting Laura Dibburn Kemp to the Police Accountability Board. And then, I don't know if you take this up separately or not, but we're submitting for the first time James Vanquier to the Police Accountability Board as well.
Thank you, Mr. Luffman.
Before you is resolution number 147-2025, confirming the reappointment of Deanne Y. Hall to the Wicomico County Police Accountability Board.
Any motion from council to approve Resolution 147, 2025?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have something to say.
Shannon?
When are we going to get a report and see these people? We don't see them. I've seen the accountability board, I think, once. When are we going to actually see who are in these positions and have a report from them?
There's an annual report that I know Jessica Lewis worked on, but
So there's an annual report drafted every year, submitted every December, written by the board. It's distributed to everyone. And obviously, after that point in time, council can ask for a work session to meet with the board members, meet with the chair. So
I think that's what's needed, that the public should see who's on the accountability board and a report, because you say they meet quarterly. I think they should come before us at least twice a year in person, you know, because people need to see these people. We don't know what they're doing. I don't personally know.
Those are, every meeting is advertised on the agenda page of the county website, and
It's not like people talking to us like you're talking to me now.
so that's a bigger question of how the board can go forward and what outreach they can have. So the board was originally about 4 years ago. There's been a lot of turnover at that time. Ms. Hall is an original member. The others were not original appointments. And what direction? So the state law says what their powers and duties are and what they're allowed to do. There's been outreach from the executive's office to encourage community outreach. And what that looks like is up to the Police Accountability Board. So that's an idea to, whenever council wants to try invite them. Their next meeting is on October, the third Wednesday in October, which is the 15th at 3 o'clock in this room. That's their next official meeting. These individuals, if they get formally appointed today, will be in attendance at that meeting. That'll be a good opportunity to have a discussion going forward about how they want to operate the committee.
Andrew, fresh my memory, or Bunky, when is that report given to the council? Is the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar?
It's December. So it has to be
December?
provided to the state by, in December and provided. So usually the October meeting, they get presented a draft. They sometimes have a November meeting if they need to tweak the draft in a couple ways, and then they formally vote on it. And then it gets submitted to everyone. I believe it's uploaded to the county website for previous years to view all of them.
So we could meet with them in January? Because I would like to see the accountability board. I haven't seen them. You're right, Cheney. And they may have problems with things. They may not, however things may be working, they may not be functioning correctly.
Cases they have and all this.
Yes.
We don't need to know the people's names, but we need to know how many cases that's come forward, just like what life crisis and suicidal people reported. They didn't give us the names, but they gave us statistics.
You just see how everything's working out, sure.
And
because it's all new. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Josh.
I guess we can, I don't know if it's better to wait till a more appropriate time, but I guess the broader question that was out here before we got into I know saw a lot of email traffic about the questions about how many of the people being put forward were married to a police officer, and if there was conflicts there, if there was issues. Did we ever reach a conclusion on any of that, or did we get any guidance on that? I guess the question being at hand that potentially folks that we might be appointing could be seen as impartial or something like that. I know that was a question that folks in the public had brought up.
None of these folks have spouses that are police officers, but I think the law is silent on it, if I recall, Andrew. So I don't think there's any direction from the state or any other code or law that I know of that would forbid someone from serving. However, obviously there could be times when they would have to recuse themselves. So.
As a follow-up to that, the question is always, how do I get on the board? Or how do I get on any board? This was advertised for 30 days. 2 people applied. It was then re-advertised for an additional 30 days, and a few more people applied. 5 people applied, and the executive, at this point, only 3 are before you, but everyone who applied met the qualifications and was put forward for recommendation. It's advertised on the county website. There's multiple outreach events that are done, not by me, but by the woman who is the liaison through the grant position into the community. I believe there was direct correspondence with individuals to encourage applications. But at the end of the day, if only 3 people applied and 3 people put forward, it's hard, to, I don't know how else to encourage it. We had this discussion at council meetings about there were vacancies, and that applications were necessary. And it's all there on the website. People need to just apply, complete, the grant administrator would reach out to people if their application wasn't complete and say, hey, we're missing this. Can you give me this information so I can make sure I can submit you? You can only lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. So if there are additional ways that the council can think of between now and January on how to future advertise these vacancies when they are out there, I believe the executive's office is open to as many forms of advertisement as possible to get this out there, to get the best applicants possible. But at the end of the day, the biggest requirement is that it has to reflect by state law, the Police Accountability Board has to reflect the makeup of the county. And so at the makeup of the county, at 9 members, that's about 3 minorities, and it's about 5 women, 4 men. And so that by state law has to be the minimum makeup. Obviously, there's no prohibition on having a larger makeup of minorities, whether it's race or gender, but that's what the makeup by state law has to be.
Right, and we appreciate that, Andrew, 100%. I think the issue here is just, this is still very new for us, and we want to make sure that in any appointments that we make, that there is no conflict of interest, and I believe it was. There are 2 issues that have been forwarded to the Ethics Commission, is that correct?
Yeah, so there were 2 submissions that, as Councilman Hastings mentioned, these women are married to current deputies. So we did submit that to the Ethics Commission, but we have not received a response back yet.
Any other questions in reference?
Real quick, so having a connection to law enforcement through retirement or marriage is not a disqualifier, right?
Absolutely not. For the chair of the Police Accountability Board, council mandated that the person be a retired law enforcement officer with over 20 years in service of a certain rank, certain qualifications, specifically for that reason, to be able to have the connections and facilitate the discussion, because the biggest part that the Police Accountability Board does is have communications with leadership at the allied agencies.
I think having somebody on the board with law enforcement experience would be helpful in the decision-making process, to have knowledge of the policies and procedures of how things work in that industry. So.
And there is one thing, and it hasn't went live yet, but on our website, how we apply for, how people can apply for jobs, I actually have IT is doing a code so that our board appointments won't be mixed in with those job applications, but it'll be essentially the same thing, but just for board appointments. So we hope to have that up and running in a couple weeks, where you'll have all our vacancies in there, and then you'll be able to apply through that same sort of menu as you do apply for a job. So.
We as council members, we can recommend people.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
And the community outreach, when do we know that? I think you said something, community outreach. When do we know they're going to reach out to the community? How does the schedule work? Or do I have to contact the chair?
You could contact the chair. So They do not have their own, I don't believe, like their own active web page where they advertise or social media. But at the October meeting, anyone can attend, council members, public, and make suggestions. And then with these new members and potentially a few more in the future, the recommendation for the October meeting would be to discuss how they want to further their responsibilities as being members of the committee, what type of outreach, if any, they want to do.
What's that date again?
But just while you're doing that, but they do have a web page on the county website under boards and commissions with how to apply.
But they don't manage it with what their events are. October 15th at 3 p.m. in the council chambers.
Josh?
Vice President Merritt already took my comment, but I guess just following up, do we do, Mr. Luffman, do we do like a monthly press release that say, hey, here are the boards and commissions openings. And if not, maybe that's something we could consider, just something simple every month and on one particular day. These are the ones that are coming up, put it out and make sure it gets out far and wide.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can do that.
And thank you for following up with the IT to try to make that happen. That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment.
Yes.
It sounds to me like the advertising, the outreach is adequate. It may be able to be improved, but just a comment. Volunteerism is an all-time low. I served on the Planning and Zoning Appeals Board for some years, and I didn't see anyone clamoring to get onto that commission, as well as many others. And just to make that comment, I mean, certainly to do as much as we possibly can for outreach, but by the same token, there's not a lot of people standing in line, correct me if I'm wrong, to serve on commissions or anything from a volunteer standpoint.
Everyone who applied was nominated, submitted for nomination.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 147, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes.
Okay, next is Resolution Number 148-2025, confirming the reappointment of Laura J. DeBurn Kemp to the Wicomico County Police Accountability Board.
Motion council approve Resolution 148, 2025. Second. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes unanimously.
And next is Resolution Number 149-2025, confirming the appointment of James Van Cure to the Wicomico County Police Accountability Board.
Motion council approve Resolution 149, 2025. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes unanimously.
Next, we have the submission of a reappointment to the Wicomico County Administrative Charging Committee.
And so we'd like to formally submit Deborah McJilton as a reappointment to the Administrative Charging Committee.
Okay, so before you is Resolution Number 150-2025, and this is confirming the reappointment of Deborah D. McJilton to the Wicomico County Administrative Charging Committee.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 150, 2025.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes.
Next
We have one more.
is Resolution Number 151-2025. This is an appointment to the Wicomico County Compensation Allowance Commission. That commission currently had a member who is no longer able to serve. The individual has moved out of the state, so they are looking to confirm one of their alternate members.
A motion from council to approve Resolution 151, 2025. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes unanimously.
That's all I had, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Good evening, Ms. Chattel. How are you? Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Council President Cannon. Good morning, Wicomico County Council.
Morning.
I, Internal Auditor Anjali Chattel, would like to present Resolution 152-2025, approving the updated job description for the position of Internal Auditor.
Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 152, 2025.
To move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Thank you.
This is the first action item as a result of a recent peer review. The focus of this update is to better align the Wicomico County Office of the Internal Auditor with the 2024 Global Internal Audit Standards. There's one other item. I didn't add it to the list of changes, but an audit committee member suggested adding into the first bullet point under required knowledge and skills regarding the bachelor's degree, the phrase "or other relevant field," and that would be so that we could have an IT auditor, perhaps in the future.
Is this something you say is not in here and you would want it added?
Potentially. So I didn't add it because it wasn't something necessary for like more aligning with the standards, but an audit committee member thought that the council may benefit from having a person with a bachelor's degree in something other than business, finance, or accounting, because there's a lot of IT needs in auditing. I use a lot of spreadsheets and so forth. Artificial intelligence is a big current thing in auditing, and at some point you may want to have a person with IT skills, and so having that word other relevant field instead. It may not be relevant to this position, but you may feel it is. So that's why I just wanted to bring it to you in case you do want to add it as an amendment to this. But if you're fine with it as is, then.
I think it's really more important is what you think would be more relevant. And if you think we should add it, it's a simple measure to make an amendment, but we need to know what the terminology might be and exactly what section you'd like that amendment to be in.
So in the section, required knowledge, skills, and ability, the first bullet point of bachelor's degree in finance, in accounting, finance, or business, adding to it, or other relevant field.
Is there any councilman that wants to make a motion in that regard?
Hold on, which exactly?
For discussion, a motion.
Page 139.
139, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Sorry, James.
No, it's okay. I was just going to ask exactly what Jeff said.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
I mean, we can always change it if it's an issue.
Yeah, and it would also open the door for someone who doesn't have a bachelor's in one of these three, but maybe has a master's in it,
And then the council is the one that would be looking into who that person would be.
Exactly.
That just broadens the horizon a little bit for us.
Yes.
We have yet to go through the personnel manual, so when we get to that point, are we going to end up potentially having to change anything with this, or?
I hope not. Currently, I don't think the internal auditor is even referenced in the, I could double check that, but.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Amendment passes unanimously. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 152, 2025 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution as amended passes unanimously. Okay, thank you.
All right. So the next item is proposed updates to Chapter 13 of the Wicomico County Code titled County Internal Auditor. This was the second action item as a result of that recent peer review. And again, the update is to better align the Wicomico County Office of the Internal Auditor with the 2024 Global Internal Audit Standards.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 points of discussion in these changes. The first is in the document as it currently is presented to you, I've added language regarding a council waiver to the internal auditor to audit the council office. This was requested by the executive side during an entrance interview for another audit in late fiscal year 2024. Since then, we've gone to great lengths to remove as many potential conflicts over the past year. So instead of the council administrator signing my time, the council president has, and also for purchases. And it's been a significant change, sort of, and it may not be completely reasonable over time. And I'm just bringing all that to your attention so that if we decide that there should be this waiver, to look at if you'll also waive that the council administrator and internal auditor sign each other's time in purchasing, even though the internal auditor would then be also auditing that person's activity as part of auditing the office. But if you don't even want the waiver in the first place, then what we've been doing over the past year maybe no longer need to be done. So, any
that a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll just say that the council president is not always in the office 8 to 5. And sometimes it can be challenging to meet the deadlines. Not that he hasn't done it, he certainly has. But it's very time sensitive, and sometimes there is a delay that the finance department or the payroll department just, they need to get it done. And that's, I think, part of the reasons why she's explained it the way she has.
Sign it.
Okay, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay.
And it could also be, so there's two parts of this waiver. One is just the waiving of it generally, and then second is if the waiver can also apply even if I'm auditing, if I'm signing off on a timesheet that I'm later auditing, which would get even to more steeper conflict. But the first level of conflict is just, do you want in the future the internal auditor to audit council purchases, time, et cetera? That's the first question for that. And then there's one other area, or do you want to discuss this further before the other potential change?
Does anybody have questions? Okay.
Okay, the other one is in a section, and this is not added yet because the peer reviewers didn't think it was so necessary, but an audit committee member did think that it would be helpful. In section B of chapter 13, bullet point 5, it's where the internal auditor is to provide the full text of the auditee's response. And number 4 prior to that said that the auditee is supposed to respond within 30 days. So in section 5, adding something to the front that says if the auditee provides the response within 30 days. And part of doing this change here would to provide for the submission without management's response if management does not timely respond. In the past, there have been audit reports that have gone out without management response included, and it was before my time, but I believe it was because management hadn't provided a response. So having this language in here then allows for the internal auditor to submit the report when management does not provide the response. Because the lack of a response could further delay the required steps of publishing an audit report.
So you wanted to add?
That's it.
Okay, it's good. I like what you've done.
Okay.
Ms. Hurley, I'm assuming this will come back to us?
Yes, this is just a work session, so to speak, and then it'll come back for introduction in legislative bill form.
I guess, do we have a consensus on the waiver? Do we?
I think we do. I don't hear anybody objecting.
Okay. Okay. And then with that waiver, would it be that you would be okay with the internal auditor and council administrator signing each other's timesheets, even though the internal auditor would potentially audit them later? Okay.
That would be for purchase card transactions too, and that would take some of the burden off the council president.
Yeah, I haven't really enjoyed it anyway.
Okay, and then for adding to the front of 13-2B5 that the county auditor shall include the auditee's text, I'm sorry, I'm rephrasing this. Adding in front of it, if the auditee provides a response within 30 days. Adding that. Okay. Yes.
Is that a question? The one that was right before this about not auditing the council's budget?
Auditing the council activity?
Council activity?
Yeah.
So you're saying that we shouldn't do that?
So currently, the law's written that I can't do that.
You can't?
Currently, yes. So
what are we trying to do? Are we trying to make it so that you can do that?
Yes, and this was a request from the executive side during another audit. It was, I can't remember if it was the P card audit or the compensatory time audit, but that the executive side felt that the internal auditor should be looking at all activity across the county, including the council office. That because currently I don't audit the council office, partly because this code says specifically that in section C prohibitions, the auditor may not conduct or supervise an audit of an office, ... by which the auditor was employed.
Gotcha.
And I'm currently employed in the council office, so I can't audit the council office.
Okay.
Yeah, so changing it so that you would waive that prohibition, only for the council office, for the internal auditor. In the audit plan, if I specify that I'm requesting the waiver to include that council activity. So for instance, the P-card audit would be the primary area.
Any other questions? Okay, so hopefully, maybe the next meeting, if not the one after.
For introduction, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
It's time we open the floor for public comments. If you have any comments you'd like to make, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concern.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Everybody. My name is Robin Cook, and I'm a resident of Wicomico County. I'm speaking this morning about my concerns with the 287G program. It's my understanding that the Wicomico County Sheriff's Department is going to use the warrant service officer model. I fear that this agreement could lead to more chaos in our county. The use of our local police officers would put undue stress on those officers, our community, and our neighboring communities. What further expectations of our officers would ICE have? Would ICE expect them to start targeting people based on skin color, speech, or tattoos? None of these attributes make them an undocumented immigrant. In closing, at the last county council meeting on September the 2nd, Josh Hastings said the immigration department was broken, and I really can't agree more with you, Josh. But we need to restore harmony and peace in our communities. I worry that this agreement with ICE could only cause more hostility between our local law enforcement and our Latino communities. I really feel like collaborating with ICE isn't the answer. I have some Latino people that work for me, and they're hardworking people. People are so stressed. I see it every day. I see it in the grocery stores. I see it at my church. People are really upset, and I'm upset. And it's just not right. It's not America. We were founded on immigrants, and I'm a transplant. I'm not from Maryland, but I'm grateful to live here. I'm from the South, and we had black friends, but the Jim Crow was still going on when I was in school. I didn't agree with it. I knew it was wrong. I was a child. My grandmother, my parents didn't agree with it. It just seems like it's all coming back. And my grandmother brought me up, and she gave me a rule to try to follow as an adult. Treat people the way you want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and honesty. And that means everyone in the world. And I'm just really upset. And thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Morning, Joe White, Wicomico County. One, I want to thank you, President Cannon, for just in a very peaceful way honoring both Bill Middleton and Charlie Kirk today. It is really nice to see, you had some discourse today as far as options you had out there. I definitely think that given the events from the last 7 days and all the rhetoric around that, it's nice to see it done much more professionally. Also want to thank you, especially Councilman Jeff Merritt, sorry. You know, you had an opportunity to grow government here earlier by just adding another position, and one that was covered in a work session back in March. It's nice that you read the briefing book so thoroughly, had your homework done, and maybe you will later, but under deeper discussion, and that level of transparency is really welcomed. A couple things that have come up in the last 6 months that seem to have been moved to the back burner because you've been dealing a lot with landfills and personnel matters that are done on social media is the $500,000 that was moved to the pension fund from roads. Now, we don't have a director of public works or a deputy director, but we did have $500,000 laying around at the end of last fiscal year. It was moved into the pension fund legally. They're allowed to do that. But I could tell you, Councilman Holloway brought up Zion Road, and that's a road that the emergency vehicles use. It happens to be a road I use for, for information. But there is some very damaged areas on that road, and these things aren't going to fix themselves. So we could sit here today talking about adding a new position. We could talk about putting money in a pension plan. When are we going to do the thing that we're supposed to do? We're a conservative county, we're supposed to be, and we have money in the bank. We have infrastructure that needs to be fixed, and we're not spending it, but we're putting it in other areas. Likewise, there was a lot of money moved for Sharps Point, and now we're finding out more details about what those spoils are going to go to and what they're going to happen. You're talking over $10 million, and I want to remind you that for several years, I can't remember if it's 4, 6, or 8 years, several $100,000 a year was moved into Public Works for the removal of spoils out of Sharps Point. But then you were asked by the executives team not to touch that money. I'd like to know where that money is, went, and what did it go to. The last thing I want to mention is, again, this is something that's been going on for several months, is you have approved someone to represent independently for the Board of Ethics. But I don't believe that there's a request for proposal out there. Just likewise, there's not a request for a bid on Cell 7. So some of these things need to be followed up on, please.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Mike Goldberg, Wicomico. I'm saddened and disturbed by the assassination of Charlie Kirk at the hands of a madman who wanted to silence him. Charlie advocated for free political speech, particularly in schools where conservative voices have long been suppressed. And I was appalled by the despicable meme recently shared by a local public school teacher on social media. But as much of a fan of Charlie Kirk that I am, I'm an even bigger fan of the First Amendment, the very principle that he defended so arduously and ultimately died for. Free speech is not limited to ideas with which we agree, but must extend to the things that we disagree with. Otherwise, free speech does not exist. This teacher shares the same rights as the rest of us unless he affirmatively waived those rights as a condition of his employment. Within hours of the assassination, the county executive made official public statements unethically mentioning the teacher by name and demanding that he be fired. Although there's no question that the meme was repugnant, the executive's response was also ill-advised and problematic. Despite the fact that the teacher's conduct on social media is prescribed in the Board of Education's policies and state law, by interjecting herself and attempting to impose her will, the executive usurped that authority. This is nothing new, as the executive has frequently shown that she does not believe herself to be bound by the separation of powers, county charter, or law. I'm confident that the Superintendent of Public Schools and the Board of Education intend to appropriately enforce policy. However, as the result of the executive's irresponsible and reckless official statements, they may now have to impose a minimal penalty to avoid a lawsuit. As with all personnel matters, this should have been addressed by the BOE internally and confidentially, but instead, she deviated from the established protocol with prejudice, thereby poisoning the well and denying the teacher the due process of law to which we're all entitled. Thus, we can reasonably expect that the consequences of the executive's poor judgment and political opportunism will cost taxpayers dearly. Furthermore, at the time when emotions are running high following the assassination of a public figure, the executive's imprudent actions have fanned the flames of discontent. Upon being informed of the assassination, former HUD Secretary Dr. Ben Carson even pointed out that social instability in times such as these can cause civil unrest. But instead of allowing the process to play out and calling for calm, the county executive poured gasoline on the fire, an act of incredibly poor judgment. The executive claims to be a supporter of the First Amendment, but her actions prove otherwise. She and her political allies have frequently used lawfare, attempts at false arrest, and other forms of intimidation to suppress opposition. Such tactics are unconscionable, unethical, and an affront to our basic liberties. Public employees and elected officials must be held to the highest standards. The teacher and the county executive have both failed miserably in this obligation.
Michael?
It is my hope that appropriate justice will be served for both. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Okey dokey. Good morning. My name is Monica Brooks. I'm president of Wicomico County, NAACP, and a resident of Wicomico County. Just really briefly, I did want to make a comment prior to my main comment. I personally, and I've heard several complaints about my concern about the fact that there is a political sign in our county executive's window that is waving out to all, for all to see. I have strong concerns about the ethics of that we should not have. This is when you run a campaign, you run, even though we run as a partisan campaign, that partisanship ends after you get into office because you're representing the entire county. So to have that sign, and I took a picture of it over the weekend because I had so many calls, and I never saw it, but I found it over the weekend. I took a photo of it, and it's wrong. It does not belong in that window. If somebody wants to put a photo of our president in the office because he is a commander-in-chief, that is acceptable. But you do not put political campaign signs in a government building. It is propaganda, and it's wrong. So that's separate. So today, I'm still following up about 287G. So my concerns are as follows. Before we enter in such an agreement, and before it's considered, I respectfully request that the county attorney conduct a comprehensive legal and financial liability assessment, because we talked about funds last time, and present the findings publicly to council. Other jurisdictions have entered into 287 agreements and have faced significant lawsuits, civil rights violations, complaints, costly settlements. Frederick County, Maryland, for example, incurred legal liability under its jail enforcement program. Local taxpayers bore the cost of this, not ICE. In addition, 287G programs require training, staffing, and oversight that are not fully reimbursed by our federal government. This places an additional burden on our finances. A liability assessment from the county attorney would clarify, do we even have a county attorney? I don't know. The potential cost of training, staffing, and overtime required to implement a 287G program. So these are some of the things that we want to clarify. The county's exposure to civil rights litigation and settlements if residents are wrongfully detained or profiled, whether the county's insurance providers would cover or exclude liability associated with immigration enforcement, and any conflicts between 287G and state law or county policy. This is a matter of good governance and fiscal responsibility. Wicomico residents deserve to know the risks before our county commits itself to an arrangement that could carry heavy financial and legal consequences. And I thank you for your attention to this urgent matter, but I urge that the county attorney prepare and publish a full liability and fiscal impact assessment for the residents of Wicomico County. Thank you.
Good morning, Joe Venosa, Salisbury. I didn't plan on saying this, but a much smarter person than I, and there's many, suggested a simple idea. Why not pass legislation as the council outlawing political signs in the building? Seemed to work finally for decals. But if we're going to hold teachers, especially good teachers relative to the executive, to ethics issues in the schools, we should hold the county executive perhaps to a higher standard as well. Just a thought, planting seeds. I didn't really want to speak about the issue regarding last week's assassinations because there's plenty of killings, unfortunately, to go around in this society. I will say, though, that I always encourage my students for robust debate and discourse, and that is something that we need more than ever. And I think when you see government preemptively stepping on people without following the actual legal process, it, as Mr. Goldberg alluded to, it completely erodes the very freedoms that we claim to represent. I think it was very shameful that a lot of people overlooked on 9/11, a day where supposedly many people died protecting other citizens and their freedoms, and instead decided to politicize it in one way or the other for a political figure who, for the record, I don't think was a very good human being, but I do feel for his children, and I can only hope that I only hope that they grow up to be better people. That being said, I do want to just ask this question because I've heard this before from several community members, that the executive did announce in a closed-door meeting with certain business leaders that there was not going to be, or at least there was not as of yet, an agreement regarding ICE. So we're getting mixed messaging. And I've said this before on our show on Open Agenda, and I'll say it again. It would be nice if some authority in our local government actually clarifies for the public what's going on. Regardless of how you feel about it, tell us what it is. And as it stands, you are the only body in local government that gives the citizens a forum to explain that. So I would encourage you, perhaps, if possible, to ask the sheriff, or God forbid, the executive, to come here and actually explain what are we doing, will it cost taxpayer money, and what is the actual process. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vanosa.
Good morning. I guess every team needs a cleanup hitter. Maybe that's me today. I don't know. Robert Taylor, Salisbury resident, 50-plus years. I didn't come here to speak to a couple of comments that were made, but I will. The county executive's actions, the sign in the window, the going after the teacher for his, what I would call untoward remarks about the shooting. County executive shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. The Board of Education has a process for it. Incidentally, in the Sun yesterday, there was a report about the somewhat same situation up, I believe it's either Harford or Cecil County, with a teacher. It's under review by their Board of Education. It will be handled. So, you know, this is just another example. We got the landfill, we got Safari at the quarry, we've got all these things she's done. And I would point out that she also made a trip to Mar-a-Lago right before she got elected. You think that has something to do with the sign in the window? Let's find out. And let's find out about the ICE 287G plan, program, whatever it is. She's listed on the poop sheet for today's meeting as being here at a work session. So this is a fine opportunity to ask her. I understand that Mr. Cannon has talked about having a work session in October. The horse may be out of the barn then. Too late to close the door. Now's the time. And I say that because there is much misinformation about this. Here's something that was in the paper last week. Congressman Harris praises Wicomico County's new partnership with ICE as if it's a done deal. I understand now she's making comments to people that it's not yet a done deal. And it's not posted on the ICE website, the MOU, and they post them there very promptly. So there's some reason to believe that we don't have one yet. Here's today's Independent. Wicomico Sheriff announces plans to work with ICE. Again, that's the community impression. This needs to be put to rest, and we need to get the actual facts this morning or this afternoon. Now, regarding some of the comments that were made, it's been said that Prince William County left their MOU with ICE because of finances, too much money. That's not the case. I'm not from Prince William County, but my mother was from there, and I spent several summers working in my uncle's garage in Haymarket. It was very red county at that time, there were signs in the stores, whites only, just like there were through many places in Virginia in the 50s. And I'm telling you, it's shifted. It's now more or less a purple or a blue county, and that's why they discontinued the program. It's politics, not money. So let's get information out on this, including the fact that President Trump has jump-started the 287G program. There are now over 1,000 of those MOUs. Over 800 of them were made after he was inaugurated in January. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
I can pass them out.
Thank you.
Patricia Melvin, District 7 in Wicomico County. I talked previously about the 287G program, and since then there's been some changes, both locally and at the national level. So I want to revise my statements and bring the information up to date. You know, it occurred to me that we're really crowdsourcing this information, doing our best. And anything that I am reporting here, you know, please tell me if you're finding something different. One thing I want to say, I've heard it said publicly that we have an MOU. I want to state that having an MOU is not the same thing as having a signed MOU. So I've not heard it said that we have a signed MOU, but possibly an MOU exists. So what I want to update you on is that initially, Wicomico County was considering the broader jail enforcement model and ultimately moved over to the warrant service officer model. The model that involved taking people off the street was never really considered for the 287, but ICE is still doing that. The WSO model is much narrower in scope than JEM. Officers only undergo 1 day of training, probably on site. Now, one big change is that, because I talked about how none of this is reimbursed federally, I think the day I said that, DHS came out with an announcement that they will do reimbursement. And what they say is that participating agencies will receive full coverage for the salary and benefits of trained officers, including up to 25% in overtime. So it sounds pretty good, but you have to keep in mind that you know, our officers have a full-time job. And so in theory, you know, that's why they do specify overtime. So in theory, this work would be done on overtime. You know, sheriff's deputies, the reimbursement is only for ICE work, not for local law enforcement. Doesn't change how the officers are paid, but rather how the local agency is compensated by the federal government. Reimbursements paid annually. Localities will still be responsible for the jail, for the food, jail, housing. There is a separate program that covers that, SCAAP, but it's not been fully funded and only covers a fraction of the cost. On the back, I have calculations as to how much time would be covered with some theoretical examples. The first example is where the officer works an average of 8 hours a week. He would not be fully, well, the county would not be fully compensated for that full amount, but if the officer worked about 6 hours a week, the reimbursement would be full. So the break-even point is just under 7 hours a week of overtime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Atkins, Wicomico County. I'm going to try real hard to skip the topics that have already been spoken about, which still leave a lot of topics to be talking about. One of them is the unofficial, but word going around that some of the dredging material from Sharks Point is going to be used to fill in some of the holes out in Conley Mill Park dredge. So I don't know when we're going to hear about that. That's certainly going to be at an added cost. There was a discussion at one time with the Public Works Department that contact the state of Maryland, see if the state of Maryland was interested in this soil, barge it back down to Wicomico and put it out at Bloodsworth or Hollins Island or any of these reclamation areas. And the word given out at that time was that there was contact with the state. The state asked how much the county wanted to charge them per ton. The state was told, county doesn't want any money, you come get it and take it. Well, what's happened to that? Where did that plan go? One thing that hasn't been talked about yet, will be here shortly, nobody else has brought up the subject. Let's talk about chickens. Anybody want to talk about chickens?
Yeah. Hear it.
We live on the eastern shore of Maryland. If it wasn't for chickens, there wouldn't be a whole lot of things going on around here anymore. But all of a sudden, the executive branch is concerned about chickens in residential areas. I think the county needs to stay away from this. You have approximately 50% of the county lives in a municipality. If the municipality doesn't want chickens in their yards, let them handle it. A lot of the developments have homeowners associations that have bylaws that don't allow you to have chickens in the yard. Why does the county need to worry about this? It took a year approximately to get the county to do something about a dog kennel in Sharptown that had 60 dogs in it. And now we're going to worry about chickens. The county's worried about 3 new liquor legislation requests. County executive's worried about removing the decals from her cars due to her fear of safety after last week. Well, she never wanted the decals on the car to begin with. But now she's got a reason to take them off. The county has a reason, council has a reason, since she is in violation of legislation enacted by the county council, to take her car away from her. So let's either get the decals on the car, or she can use her personal car to drive back and forth to work. Thank you.
All right, good morning. My name is Kenson Raymond, and I reside in Wicomico County. So I'm just going to touch about 2 things that I feel is very important. Again, it's on 287G. I'm going to try not to speak on what has already been spoken about. I just want to talk about the fear that this 287G would create in the immigrant community, because with fear would mean that when crimes happen, they would not report it. And that means that, these folks would go unpunished. And I'm all for deporting anyone that's committing crimes in the country. If you're doing illegal stuff, then get rid of them. I don't have a problem with that. But for those hardworking individuals that comes here that wants to work hard and seek a better life for their families, then let them go through the legal process and let the immigration court, deals with them. And if they deserve to go back home, then so be it. But if we allow this policy, this 287Gs to come in our counties, in our cities, then just to have the police away from doing their duties, their daily jobs. So a simple traffic stop with an immigrant knowing that they could get deported, that is going to be a problem for us, okay? So I suggest that we look into this. I know that we all have our own opinion. That's fine. We can agree to disagree, but this is not going to be right for our counties. This is not going to be right for our families. These immigrants, again, that are here, they work hard. I came here as a kid. But now I'm a grown man, proud U.S. citizen, happy to be here. I'm Haitian, love to be Haitian. I love my Haitian folks as well. They're hardworking people, just like every immigrant that comes to the country. So it's not just about Haitians, it's not about the Hispanic. It's all about all immigrants, all hardworking individuals that are proud U.S., that are seeking a better life, to be a U.S. citizen just like everyone else, okay? So please look into this 287 Gs and just not just over step it, whatever. Thank you.
I'm the closer. Good morning. Debbie Krause, Bivalve, Maryland, Wicomico County. So first of all, I just wanted to say about Bill Middleton. He hired me in 1978, and he hired me because I was persistent, because I came into the office and sat outside in his office until he finally hired me as a teacher. So that was something. That was something. Now, so for the 287G and the public, will we have knowledge of what they're going to be doing? I would really like to know. I think that all of our county wants to know. Will people be coming to our doors if we have a brown person? Because now the courts are allowing that. If you look, or they think they have reasonable cause. So it would make sense to have a general meeting that we'll be able to learn about what ICE is going to be doing in this county. Because what we see on TikTok and on the internet and on social media may not, I don't want that happening here. And even if you want immigrants that are not legal here out of the country, you don't want them taken out the way they are being taken out. And I know I did say something about that last time. So, and also when immigrants come to court, are we going to allow ICE to be outside the courtroom to arrest them, even though they're coming to a mandated meeting? That was just something else I wanted to say. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, that concludes public comments. Council comments. Shani?
I want to say that I am sorry about the assassination of Mr. Kirk. I think it was wrong. However, I think that when we want to focus on just him, we need to focus on the mass shootings of our children. And when our parents are scared to take their children to school. I have a granddaughter now, a great-granddaughter that's going to a great school here in the county. And, you think about what somebody could walk in, or when they're getting off the bus, killing people. I think they need to be thought of. Mass shootings, gun control. If the man didn't have any clue of him being mental, but he had access to guns. And I think if we're going to talk about this one man being shot, we need to talk about everyone in this country that's been shot. And that's how I personally feel. As far as the 287G, when I worked at a newspaper years ago in Princess Anne, we had companies coming, soliciting immigrants to come to work in their poultry factories. What should have been done when they came over, they should have found housing for them. They should have fixed it where they would learn or get prepared to become a citizen. A lot of these things are not being done. I worked with the migrant labor when I was first moved back home, Delmar Rural Ministries, and we had to go out and find housing for some of these folks. But that wasn't our responsibility to me, because the company should be responsible. They could have workshops or someone coming in to show them how to become a citizen and not going through all this stuff. My father came over here in '48, working in the fields because the men were fighting war. So they went West Indian. A lot of West Indians came over from Jamaica, Nassau. But they became a citizen. How he became a citizen, somebody had to tell him how to become a citizen. And also, back in the day, teachers were going to teach the migrant children. So when they came in, their parents came in to work, they had classes and functions for their children. Now, what we're doing now is hauling them in like you have cattle. Like I look at Westerns all the time, and I think I'm looking at rawhide sometime when you just assume, bringing these people and putting them in concentration camps, because that's what it is. And the people that got all this hate, if I cut my hand right now, it's going to bleed red. If he cuts his hand, it's going to bleed red. We're all human beings, every last one of us. Every last one of us are God's children. But when you promote hate and fear in this country, you see what is happening. One man has got assassinated. What else is going to happen? You're scared to walk the streets because you don't know what's happening. Everybody's not a gang person. Like the gentleman said, people come here to work. It's how they're brought in, and we need to educate them on the procedures, our laws. But we just don't feel that they're our enemy. We all came over here as immigrants. The Indians were here. The Indians, and they were slaughtered, some of them, because they were different. They were considered savages, not human beings. So I'm just saying that the hate has to stop on both sides. The hate has to stop. And do it the right way. If we have problems with immigrants coming in, go to the agency that helps them and see how they can become citizens. Because it is an influx of people coming in here. But we need to educate the people. And if they're workers, they're doing a lot of jobs that we wouldn't do. I know I wouldn't do it. They're doing jobs that we wouldn't do. And so I think that some of the blame for this influx should come to the counties, and they should pay for getting people homes, housing, and citizenship. So that's all I have to say about that. But our children are so important. I think about when you do one person and you had those kids in the church praying and get shot. Where are those little children? Where you honor them and respect their mothers and fathers to send their children to school? Multiple people being shot, going in churches shooting people. This country has come. I don't know what to say about it. I don't listen to the news anymore because it sickens me. It makes you cry. Yes. And I already cry enough as it is, but I don't want to cry about something that can be avoided. But just what you say out of your mouth. That's all I have to say, John.
Thanks, Shane.
First, thank you all for attending and for folks for tuning in. I want to talk about the fairness doctrine. I guarantee nobody said that in the last 50 years. The fairness doctrine, I don't know if you remember what that was, but that pretty much ended in the late 80s. But for a period, it started in the 40s. But the fairness doctrine, if anybody's, I'm 42 years old, anybody's roughly my age and young and older, you remember when all of these crazy TV shows suddenly started, the trash TV, Jerry Springer, all of the rest of this trash that we would see, which is what we now call pretty much everyday social media. But back then, it was clearly something very different. And the only reason why it came about was the end of the fairness doctrine. The fairness doctrine, as we knew, was the FCC said, hey, the airspace within the United States, that is our space. And so if you're going to put any message out, then it needs to be balanced, it needs to be thoughtful. I definitely, thoroughly, 100% think there needs to be a new fairness doctrine, and with regard to not just the TV, but through anything that goes through our internet. I think it was absolutely awful that Mr. Kirk was assassinated. I couldn't tell you who he was a week ago. I couldn't tell you who the heck Charlie Kirk was. But I mean, I was looking on this morning on just the amount of an article on the AP. So just in 2025 alone, the Minnesota Democratic senator, state senator, and her husband fatally killed. The Democratic governor, Josh Shapiro, they tried to set his house on fire and burn him to death. We had an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer shot outside the facility. The New Mexico Republican Party headquarters was set on fire. We had a shooter that went to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We've had 2 assassination attempts, of course, on the current president. We've had, I could go on and on. A year and a half ago, we had the Maryland the Maryland judge that was murdered. Last week, we had, after the Kirk assassination, we had the bomb threats. We had, of course, it's the Gretchen Whitmer. You could go on and on and on and on. This is America, and this shouldn't be America. And I want to, of course, acknowledge that this is not right. And I've been saying it for 5 years that we need to have, that this is a bigger issue. And for the last, longer than 5 years since I've been on the council, I've been saying this is an issue that gets worse and worse and worse every year. And in closing on this, Mr. President, I don't want to take too long, but I do want to acknowledge this. There's a reason why this gets worse and worse every year. There is a profit motive to every time one of these things happens. The Fox News makes money when terrible things happens. CNN and MSNBC make money when terrible things happens. You name your social media platform, from Facebook to the TikToks. All of them make money when awful, terrible things happen, and then they spread it around. There is a profit motive in making sure that what everyone sees is awful, because when that happens, more people tune in. More people tune in, you can sell more diapers and pills and cars and whatever. So I guess in closing on that, I know that there's really not a whole lot we can do about that. And if we had a functioning federal government, maybe they could try to address it, but that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But in the meantime, I would love to see us all kind of turn down the temperature. And if you've got, I think the governor of Utah really did a great job in basically saying, hey, go out and touch grass. Go out and actually walk on something. Put your darn phone down and go actually, go walk through the woods for a bit. Go tell me what that species is. A bird that just landed in front of you. Go tell me what that is. If you don't know what that bird is, well, then maybe you're not fully tuned in on the right things. So I guess in closing all of this, I really just want to see us all kind of continue to move forward and in the right way. We are just rapidly not doing a good job in this country, and we can do so much better. I firmly believe that we will and we can do, but it doesn't. That doesn't take place when you have the kind of the comments like that have been made, and I won't go into any of those. So I guess in closing, I'll just say also, mentioning also the issues as far as, I think it was well said, Ms. Brooks, as far as the we should not be campaigning inside a government office building, no matter what party you're is. That seems very simple, and I'm sure it's a violation of some sort of law. Anyway, but also we just need to make sure that a government in general, that we continue to do better. And I know I started with fine folks who continue to make sure that happens here, but we need that to happen everywhere, and hopefully that Congress can address that.
Thank you, Josh.
So I've got a few things I want to say today. We've come a very long way from September 11th, 1990, 2001. And I remember the day very well. I was in 3rd grade. Some of you, obviously, up here were not.
I was in college.
But I was in 3rd grade, Miss Robinson's class. My mom came and picked me up, 9:30, I believe that was the time, before the second tower was hit. I came home. I didn't really realize the drastic situation I was in until we had the news on, and it showed the second airplane going right into the tower and killing massive number of people. But following that event, we saw a huge coming together of people, families, people loving on each other. And the 10th of this month, we had some of us don't know who he was. I knew who he was. I followed him. I understood what he was saying. I understood his message. And a lot of people were saying he was a political commentator. Yes, I would agree with that. But foremost, he put God first. He put the Bible first. He put Christ first in everything. And if you watch and listen to him, that's exactly what he did. And I brought something important here today that we've got some people in this audience and in this council that are trying to figure out what is going on in the world. Why is this happening? Why the craziness, right? I hear it up here, and I'm telling you, it's because people are falling away from the Word, from Christ. And it's actually, everything's right here, the answers. This is truth. You've got the beginning, you've got the present, and you've got the ending written right here. It's all here. It's already in 2 Thessalonians, where there will be a falling away. And I have a few scriptures that I'd like to read, if that's okay. It'll be quick. And I've got them highlighted here, Jevon. Genesis 50:20. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good to bring to pass, as it is in this day, to save much people alive. Now, a lot of evil things happen, but we have to recognize that there's been good from this. I've had friends get saved over this. Now we've got, Jesus.
Literally.
Jesus. I'm telling you, it's been a rough week for me. It's been a rough week for a lot of people that I know. John, I'm nervous, but
Take your time.
Thank you, buddy. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them, to God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Now, that's powerful, but we have to understand that, yes, Charlie Kirk was a political commentator, but he got his politics based off of this book. If you watch him, if you read this book and you listen to what he's actually saying, it resonates. Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. God called us to be salt and light. What does salt do to grass? When you throw salt on the grass, it changes. When you throw light in the dark, it brightens. We have to remember that yes, it was tragic what's happened, and this world is tragic. I agree. But we have to come back to this. And let me read you another one, and I believe this was Charlie, the 5 talents. 25, Matthew 25:20. And so he that received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. And with closing, I have one verse that I'd like to read us. It's from Revelation. And yes, it is tragic that I believe he was a martyr for his faith. Not just because of his political beliefs, but because of his faith. And we can have debate and disagree on that. That's okay. But that's my belief. Revelation 6:9. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, O how, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. And I just want everybody to really think about this. I know not everyone here is a Christian, and that's okay. I'll pray for you. And, there's only one way. There's only one way. And that's through Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
It also says...
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry.
the light
Ma'am.
of the world, the resurrection and the way, the true life. Jesus spoke of love. And what we're seeing in government right now in the White House, it's not love. It's not love, and it's not the way Jesus taught.
Any other?
You watch the
Ma'am, excuse me, but you are out of order. Apologize. Any other council comments? Jeff?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody, for
Thank you, James.
6 more minutes, and those viewing us. I think the social media rhetoric in the past week has reached an unprecedented level, both locally and across the country. It's caused, it's jeopardized employment of people and other issues. Locally, some of this social media activity has thrown Wicomico County in a negative light. If I was living somewhere else in the country and thinking of moving to Wicomico County and becoming a teacher, I might think twice now. So while we have the right to free speech, sometimes that speech has consequences. It seems like we've forgotten things like kindness and respect. We definitely need to get back to that. Every time I go on social media, every conversation that I've recently had with somebody, I'm bombarded with ads for toasters and cars and golf clubs and everything. It's getting out of hand. With regards to the 287G issue, I recommend everybody to do what Mrs. Melvin did and go to ice.gov. There you can learn about 287G. I guarantee you, you will not get that information on social media. The council was not included in any of the discussion on any agreement, any MOU that exists or doesn't exist. We were led to believe by the executive that we were going to pursue the jail enforcement model. When the press release came out, we found out at the same time the public found out that we'd changed direction and we're going in the direction of the warrant service officer model. Okay. I had to go to ice.gov and figure out what does that mean? What is it? So I encourage everybody to get educated. As far as costs, we don't know. We asked the question. One day we were told there are no additional costs associated with this program for the county. The next day we're told there might be overtime expenses and administrative expenses. A little bit of mixed messaging. I'll close on a high note. Hopefully the rain will be done Thursday so that Friday we can all enjoy the Maryland Folk Festival, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if that's not enough, Sharptown Heritage Day is Saturday, and so is Delmar Heritage Day. So no matter what part of the county you're in or the city, there's something for you to do, and it's all free. And that is all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ennis?
Mr. Merritt hit on a few of the points that I was going to make. He stole my thunder, but anyway.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just to comment on 287G, and I'm stating the obvious. There is nothing before the council this time. I'm sure most everybody knows that. Mr. Venosa made the comment that we are the only body with public access, and we do appreciate all the comments and opinions that are stated here, and that's how we know how to do our jobs better. But to that same point that he made, all we know is there is an intention by the executive and I think the sheriff's office to enter agreement. As far as I've been told, there is nothing in place at this point in time. And we've been told it is still a work in progress. They're still working on details. I don't know how long that's going to take. At some point in time, I assume if there's an MOU, it will come before the council. And at that time, we should have enough time to also encourage and see public comments. Meanwhile, there was a broadcast on PAC 14 that mentioned that the executive said that if someone wanted to have input, they could make an appointment with her office. So I'm just throwing that out as the only body that I know that's actively engaged with that topic. We will, if that time ever comes, we will have a chance, if the MOU comes before us, to have a debate and encourage public input at that time. Thank you.
Well, David and Jeff kind of got between the two of them, picked up on most of what I was going to say, but I might not be on the same page with some of the folks in this room today on the illegal, and I'm going to say illegal immigration, because that's what it's all about, illegal immigration. But we don't have the information on 287G. This council doesn't. But down this hallway, the last office on the left, sometimes it's the door's open and sometimes it's not, but you can knock on it. That's where your answers are. And, you know, if they don't answer your questions, tell them you want the answers. That office is open 5 days a week. Anybody can go down there. It's the third floor of this building. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Under presidential comments, I'll probably just be repeating what several members have already said here in reference to 287G. We do appreciate your concerns over this. We share the same concerns, whether it's an MOA or whether it's an MOU. I know probably 2 weeks ago I gave a actual soundbite to the media where I said, from what I understand, the 287G has come to a full stop. And then 2 days later, if not 24 hours later, there's all of a sudden a press release saying that, you know, we're full, you know, moving forward, you know, full steam. So yes, the public needs to know what's happening. This county council has every right to know what's happening, regardless of the council's role. I understand from a federal perspective, it discusses the executive, it discusses the sheriff. I understand all that, but we're still a legislative body in Wicomico County. And even a common courtesy would say that the county council should know pretty much what's happening, regardless of our opinion, regardless of our role. I think that's important because we don't want to see such misinformation. We don't want these mixed messages in our county. There is absolutely no reason for mystery. There's no place for it, especially with this. It only creates confusion and it creates anxiety. No reason for that. I don't think, as the president of Wicomico County, when I get calls from the media and they ask me where are we with 287G, I just don't feel it's appropriate at all for me to have to explain to them that I have no comment. And it's not the way for good governance, in my opinion. That's why I did invite the executive to come to this meeting, to have a work session so that we could discuss 287G. Not whether or not we're going to be in favor of it or anything else, but just to get an idea of what is happening. And that was denied. The executive made the comment that she did not know, she did not have enough information at that point in time for a work session. I don't understand that, but okay, we'll have to accept that. But we will be holding a meeting in October, first meeting in October, October 7th, where we will be scheduling a work session for 287G. Doesn't mean we need to come to any consensus, but it would sure be nice to have a conversation just to see where we are as a county in this process. So that being said, I have to close the meeting out and to adjourn from legislative session to go into open work sessions followed by a closed work session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an employee over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Deputy Director of Public Works, and to conduct or discuss an investigation proceeding on actual or possible criminal activity to protect the privacy of the individual involved. That's a mouthful. That's a motion. Second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. We're going to take about a half an hour recess for lunch, and when we come back, we'll begin the open work session. We're reconvening as the Wicomico County Council for September 16th, 2025. The first item on the open agenda for an open work session is proposed regulations on chickens located in residential zoning districts. So you could all please, for the record, state your name, and then we can begin the conversation however you choose.
Sure. Julie Giordano, County Executive.
Tracy Taylor, Director, Planning and Zoning, Wicomico County.
Andrew Illuminati, Department of Law.
However you want.
Sure, thank you. Thank you all for putting this on the agenda. So first and foremost, I just wanted to comment on Mr. Atkins' comment. We are not looking to ban chickens at all, so I'm not really sure where that came from. That is not what we are trying to do at all, so I want to put that on the record. When I sent my email over to council, the biggest thing that we wanted to talk about, we actually have two separate things that we wanted to talk about. We want to talk about the criminal activity that occurred and what our planning and zoning kind of came across, and then a potential proposal is to see what you all thought. So when I sent my email over to you, I talked about our compliance officers recently uncovered a rooster fighting ring operating in a residential area. Of course, the sheriff's office was immediately informed and now is involved in the matter. You all got the pictures. So I said, beyond this criminal activity, we also have received complaints related to noise, sanitation, and maintenance issues tied to backyard chickens, and it's our responsibility to ensure that our neighbors remain safe, healthy, and free from activities that jeopardize community trust. And so when we talked about suggestions, we had said, I said, I encourage us to consider, big word, consider, legislation that would establish limits maybe on the number of chickens permitted per household, prohibit roosters in residential areas, require health and sanitation standards for coops and enclosures, and provide enforcement measures to give our officers the necessary tools. So I appreciate you putting it on the agenda. From that, after talking to planning and zoning and to legal, it seems like we have two separate things here. So I'm going to let Tracy talk about what had happened, and then what we thought about doing, which I put in front of you is just a sample summary, is something that we would like to call the Good Neighbor Animal Containment Act. And it's basically, if people are going to have animals on their property, doesn't matter, dogs, cats, whatever, livestock, we really need to work on containment and sanitation issues. And that goes for really any animal. So it doesn't necessarily have to be banning anything or, trying to, not have chickens, whatever. So I'm gonna let Tracy sort of set the stage for how this even came about.
So, as you know, we have both nuisance and zoning, zoning in our department, and we get a variety of complaints. So we received a complaint. This area is right off of Parker Road, and it's West Morse-Leonard Road. So it's like at the split on Parker, right as you bear left to go towards like Salisbury Christian, you would actually bear right. It's just a few houses in. It's a very nice neighborhood. The lots are not that large. The houses are, fairly close together. So we had gotten more than one complaint about chickens running all over neighbors' properties. And so we went out and we were able to determine, which house the chickens were from. And there were a lot of chickens running around. And when I say running around, I don't just mean in someone's yard. They were in their mulch beds, kicking out mulch. They were tearing up their landscaping areas. They were eating things. It was a mess. And so I feel like the neighborhood had been very tolerant of this activity for some time. When we sent nuisance officers out, you have to understand that there's only certain areas that we're able to look at legally. All of the activity for this site was behind a very large stockade fence. So we do not have the ability to just walk in a fence without permission. We did notify the animal control folks. They also went to the property, but also didn't have the authority to go behind the fence. Now, we could see a little bit in the fence that there were quite a bit of chickens and or roosters back there, but it was very difficult to see. So ultimately, we were able to gain access to the backyard with the permission of the property owner. And once we got there, it was an unbelievable situation. There were over 60 roosters. I don't know how many hens. Some were free ranging, if you will, in the backyard, but most of the roosters were in the pens that you've seen, which are like blue barrels that have been converted into pens. If you look up, immediately we had suspicion that it was some type of illegal operation, but there wasn't anything that we could do till we contact the sheriff's department. If you look up the cockfighting ring situation, you'll see that these blue barrels are actually referred to as bachelor pads.
And these are these individual cages, if you will, for these roosters. There was a small trampoline for training, for sparring. There were some roosters that were tethered to the ground. There was an array of hypodermic needles on the ground. There was a burn barrel with a lot of chicken bones in it, a lot of feathers. It was really an atrocious situation. So at that point, we had suspicions, beyond just the operation that we thought was going on, and the sheriff's department came in and did an investigation, and then that's turned into a criminal activity. But the point to that is that those roosters and those hens were running all over the place in this neighborhood. Not to mention the fact, can you imagine living next door to 60-plus roosters and the noise that created? In our video that we took, the noise level is unbelievable. The fact that this neighborhood was even able to tolerate this for as long as they did, and like I said, the issue was that we don't always have access. So let's just say, for instance, if this wasn't a criminal operation, let's just say that this was just somebody who had this many, fowl on their site. There's nothing in our provisions other than, basically the soft language that says looking out for the protection of health, safety, or welfare of residents and the preservation from indiscriminate raising of animals. We don't have the ability to say, you can't have more than 50 chickens and or roosters. We don't have the ability to even really get into how they house them, as long as it appears to be humane, if we can even have access to it. So I think it's two things. It's one, we uncovered a criminal activity that will be pursued. And I think that the person is at large, if you will. All of the hens and the roosters went to the Humane Society. Most, if not all of them, will be euthanized. Many of them had disease. But even if it wasn't a criminal activity, we probably would not have been able to shut that down. We would not have been able to say you can't have it was well over 100 fowl on the site. We wouldn't have been able to do that. There's still, even with animal control going out, there's still 40-plus hens and or roosters running around that neighborhood that weren't able to be captured, that are just running loose right now. So we've had numerous complaints about it. I think the term is free-range chickens, people that have chickens. I'm sure many of you have ridden along a road and seen chickens and or roosters along the road. You kind of slow down, you don't want to hit them. It's fine if they stay confined, but if they're not confined, it does become a nuisance. And in our nuisance ordinance, it really doesn't address it. It's addressed in our zoning code, but not in a way that it's highly enforceable. So it's just a consideration to make you aware that we probably get these complaints on average, probably 2-3 times a month, and there's very little that we can do about it.
The 2 to 3 times a month, are they the repeat complaints?
No, not always.
Is it not the repeat house and such, it's someone
No.
different all the time?
Right.
Okay.
And we definitely want to stress the fact that we are not talking about our ag land. We are not talking about people that live, on farms and things like that. We are talking about highly, very dense residential areas. And if, and we're just bringing forward, something that was brought to our attention. Of course, this uncovered a whole different situation, so we're kind of setting that off to the side. But we are wondering if we should, and it's up to this council, obviously, if we should look at something to where we are holding people accountable, where if you are going to have, whether it is, dogs, cats, livestock, poultry, whatever you're going to have, we should be expecting, some sort of containment and proper containment on the property. So if we don't want to get into, I know that there's like a property rights and people should be able to have what they want on their own property. I agree. Do we need regulation on how many? And if we don't think so, do we agree that we should probably contain them within our own property so that way they're not causing a nuisance throughout the entire community? So just things to think about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I interrupt you. And just to keep in mind, in 22561, farms are exempt from this anyway. I mean, it says right in the language I sent you yesterday that doesn't pertain to a bona fide farm, and that's why I put the definition of a farm in there for you so that you could see that.
I have a question. What do you consider a residential neighborhood in the A1 district
We wouldn't even be looking at the A1 district for any legislation. We would be looking more at the R8, R15, R20, R30, where you have, I mean, in the R8, you have 8,000 square foot lots. You can have 4+ units per acre. That's pretty tight density. To have, somebody next door to you has 10 roosters, you're going to hear those roosters. You're going to wake up to, like this individual that called us, said he's been waking up to roosters crowing at, 4:30, 5 o'clock for a year and just couldn't take it anymore.
That particular area you're talking about has a poultry farm within a couple thousand feet and a farm. So how would you, if you've got this residential area connected to a farm, how would you control? What bothers me is somebody comes in. I'm going to use Kilburn as an example. Okay, that's a residential neighborhood. They have a homeowners association. 100 feet, you have ag land that's growing corn and chickens, could grow cows, could have roosters. So say this farm right next to Kilburn has roosters that are crowing at 4 o'clock in the morning. What are you going to do about that?
Wouldn't be anything we could do. We would go by the zoning of the property, and we would go by the farm exclusion provision. So if it meets the definition of a farm, it would not be subject to any regulation. And if it was zoned A1, it wouldn't be subject to any regulation. We would be more focused on actual residential neighborhoods in the R8, R15. And even if the council felt that R20 or R30 needed some sort of extra provision, because then you're dealing with half-acre lots for the most part, instead of, quarter-acre or less lots. The density is much different. I think it's just a consideration of the number of complaints that we get about roosters in particular, the noise associated with roosters. But as the county executive said, at a minimum, I think we should have the ability to at least have them confined to the property.
So you're familiar with the property on the corner of Walston Switch and 346?
Yes.
All the animals confined. Now, they're confined.
Yes.
Except sometimes the chickens are out along the road.
They do get out.
Is there anything in here, because that's actually A1 district too, isn't it? So there's nothing in here that could address that. That's a problem we've had that we're not going to solve.
But just to clarify though, we have gone there, we have repeated complaints about that property, that we've gone there. We've brought in animal control and we brought in the Humane Society. In every single instance, they have said that the animals are being treated humanely. So in those cases, it's very tough to do anything about that.
So just the two questions we have. Does council feel that we should establish limits on the number of chickens, like in a residential or livestock or however you feel? And if not, totally fine. That's why we wanted to give another proposal where it would be that Good Neighbor, Containment Act, where you can have what you want on your property, but it does need to be properly contained. And if there is an issue, planning and zoning would then have the ability to come out and say, hey, this, is against our code, or, you need to do X, Y, and Z to sort of fix it to make sure that your animals, whatever they are, by your choice, are contained.
I have another question. I see it says assistance and cost provisions. Are you suggesting that we get grants and give subsidies to these people? That
Where are you reading from? Sorry.
Second page, number 9. Low-income animal owners, possible assistance or subsidies to install fencing and enclosures. Local governments may provide grants or cost sharing to promote compliance.
These are just ideas that we've thrown out there. So, if what we're worried about is that if you have an individual that is, low income and says, oh, I have these animals, but I can't afford a fence. I can't do this. I can't do that to adhere to the property. Is there a way that DHCD or something like that, we would just look into to see if we could help sort of offset the costs? And if we can, and if it doesn't work, like I said, these are just recommendations. This is all just a summary and just, ideas throwing out there, because I think that you do have people with that concern. Fences are expensive. They are. And, not everybody can afford them.
Well, if they can't afford them, they shouldn't have the animals, and we can't afford,
that's a whole other
apparently,
issue.
to put
That's a whole other thing.
SRO officers in all our schools, and now we got a piece of paper in front of us saying that you might want to give them money to, keep their
Just
animals up.
ideas. We're just spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
This is, I don't write the legislation. That's what you guys do.
Has the Animal Control Board, Appeals Board been contacted about this? Have they reviewed this?
They have not reviewed this, no, but they are aware of the situation because obviously they came out and saw everything, and they also understand that our hands are tied because we don't have anything in our code to be able to prohibit any sort of thing happening.
I guess the thing, and I get it, about having a bunch of chickens next door to you. That had to be a real nightmare. Roosters crowing that close in a neighborhood. But I guess the thing that really concerns me is we've got so many laws now that we're not enforcing due to manpower, for whatever reason. We've passed the balloon law, we've passed the bamboo law, we've got all these houses that's not in compliance with the building codes and all, and none of that stuff's getting taken care of, and we're talking about enacting more laws that.
I think I wouldn't. Our thought was we were getting these complaints in, and we thought it was important to bring it in front of the council. So these complaints are coming in. We don't really have a way to tackle those issues, at least appropriately, and so we're bringing it forward to you all. If you don't think it's worth the community's time to do something, with this, then that's fine. We'll keep working the way that we have been, but it has become an issue at least 2 or 3 times a month.
I understand, and the microchips. I mean, are you, on number 4. It says animal must be identified via tags or microchips. I don't know how you microchip a chicken, but there may be a way.
I'm not sure either, but again, a lot of these were for your dogs and things like that,
Yeah,
so it
I
didn't pertain
understand
to
that.
every bit of, every animal.
Well, I guess this is worth, I don't know how the council, I guess this is worth looking at and dissecting this and trying to find a way for planning and zoning and animal control to have some kind of authority to address the issues, is what I'm saying. But I think it's very, very, we don't need to be overstepping this.
I agree, 100%, yeah.
We already have, the 22561 that I emailed to you all. We already have provisions for animals in residential districts. The problem is the provisions are just sort of very broad and sort of fluffy language, health, safety, welfare, how do you implement that? How do you address that? There aren't any really provisions in here for numbers. A lot of the municipalities have language that either they don't allow roosters in residential zones at all, or you're only allowed 1 rooster per property or something of that nature. I'm not going to say that other counties have handled this any differently than we have, because we have contacted other counties and they acknowledge it's a tough issue to handle in a rural county. It's just, it seems as if we're getting more and more calls about this, and we're not able to address it under our current regs hardly at all. This particular instance on West Morse Leonard, we just got lucky that they let us gain access to that backyard to be able to address this. This was a really, really bad situation. And
But it's an illegal activity already, right? I mean, it was
In this
illegal.
case,
So we don't
yes.
need to pass any laws to
No.
take care of that activity that was
Except
going on.
that I'm just making the point that we saw chickens running, like when we went out, we saw chickens running, but we didn't have the ability under this to investigate it any further. And if we hadn't gained access just by chance, him allowing us, it still would be going on, because this section doesn't really give us any kind of ability to enforce anything.
Isn't this fellow part of our Shavox Road issue too?
He
Yeah.
is.
I was talking to Gary the other day about it.
Shavox and
Yeah,
problems on Alton Road as well, right around the corner.
yeah.
Issues, I mean, you have roosters, you have hens, you have chickens, you have a noise violation, and then you have to worry about how you're going to address the law, the enforcement, and then adjudication, which all 3 can be troublesome. You mentioned the residential districts, the 4 residential, you have town, transitional, et cetera, right? So, I have 100% confidence in you as far as being able to sort of sort through and figure out where it may fit and where it may not fit. But similar to what Joe said, is that, you do have the Animal Advisory Board, and their specific role is exactly what we're talking about, every part of it. it's their responsibility to address any changes to animal control laws. So I don't know who they might be, the Animal Advisory Board. I don't know if I've ever met any of them, but that could be a good start.
They met last week to
The
decide
ani-
Really?
if a dog,
Yeah, the Animal
Okay.
Appeals Board.
Okay.
That,
You got two. You got the Right to Farm Board, and then you got the Animal Appeals Board, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said Animal Advisory, I meant Animal Appeals Board, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and I have no, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to chatting with them to kind of see where they sort of stand on this and whatever. We just wanted to bring it forward to you guys saying, hey, people have come, they're complaining. What do you think? Do we need to tighten up these regs? And if it doesn't really fit the narrative of what we want to do, then that's okay too, but.
I'll just say where I stand. I love backyard chickens, right? I don't want to impede anyone's right to have their own chicken. But at the same time, we need to make sure that chicken doesn't get on someone else's property and destroys their property.
Right.
And the chicken doesn't know, but the person that owns the chicken should know.
Right.
And how can we navigate that without having to step on anyone's toes and hurt anyone's feelings? I don't know. So
Right.
that's my thoughts, though.
Well, it's one of those things too, that if we get a complaint in and, you know, the nuisance guys go out there, if they say, okay, well, there's really nothing we can do, if we had something in place, we could say, hey, look, if your animals are here, if we could please keep them on their property, kind of do like a warning system, you know, and then sort of go from there. Like if their sighting needs to happen, like you really need to keep your animals contained. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we're talking about chickens just because of this situation, but that really should go for dogs and cattle and everything else that people want to have.
I guess you say nuisance goes out, but I thought that was under animal control's umbrella to be going to animal complaints, not the planning and zoning.
no, it's what's twofold, because we have requirements under zoning in addition to animal control going out. Animal control will go out, initially they'll go out for the welfare of the animal, you know, to make sure the animal is being cared for. In the case of the chickens, they couldn't get behind the fence either. They saw 1 or 2 chickens running around. The problem is there could have been 5 that escaped over the fence one day. It could be 15 the next day. It could be 1 the next day. It was just chronic, ongoing situation. But in our zoning code, planning and zoning is responsible for enforcing the zoning code portion of it, and then animal control has their portion of it. So it's really handled in a couple of different ways.
So who would get it first?
In this case, it comes to us because of nuisance.
But if it comes to you as a chicken or a dog or a cat or whatever being out running loose, do you contact animal control and tell them you have a problem?
If it's just for like a dog running loose, if you want to broaden it to all the animals, if it's just a situation of a dog running loose or a dog not being properly cared for, or if it's noise or something like that, we'll probably contact animal control. If it's something with specific to somebody calling, like in this case, and saying, hey, we've got on any given day 10 or 15 chickens and the roosters running all over our neighbor's property, then that will come under zoning because of the section about animals in residential districts. And we all work together. I mean, our nuisance officers are in constant contact with animal control and Kim Knock and Clark and Tony and Jim. I mean, we do have a team effort. Sometimes it falls in their court, sometimes it falls in ours, sometimes it's a combination of Clark and us. It just depends on the case. This particular case, everybody was involved. We tried to get everybody involved to get behind the fence.
The main issues really are chickens running all over the place and noise primarily from roosters.
Roosters
So
specifically.
that's the 2 issues. Now, do you think it's within their purview as the appeals board to maybe work with Tracy to try to come up with a solution that we could turn into legislation? Or is that more than what they anticipate to take on as a board?
It's a zoning issue here, so that's where that's outside their purview. From the nuisance perspective, that's kind of where they have more control to those animals and that issue.
So they would probably deal with the laws. I mean, deal with the noise.
Yes. So that's when we did the big rewrite a few years ago. That's who was involved in the process because that addressed the nuisance portion. This is about what you can do on a property, which is a zoning issue. So
Chickens running in somebody's front yard there, that is an animal control law.
it's definitely, I think if ultimately, and not to cut, I know Joe has a question, ultimately, they are a body that could be consulted on the matter Planning Commission, if it's going to be a text amendment, will be involved in the matter. But having an idea of what, I think what this county executive is saying is, what is council's will? If it's to hear from the Animal Advisory Board, to hear from possibly Animal Control on the matter, then, and then craft legislation, then depending on what the legislation looks like, will dictate if it goes the Planning Commission route or if it just stays here.
I can tell you one thing that would curb a lot of this. If you have a problem with a chicken or chickens on a property, if you inform those people, and I'll read this, in Maryland, any person who keeps or cares for chickens must register with the Maryland Department of Agriculture. Once they have to start filling out paperwork, they're going to cut back on even having, if somebody says, hey, I want to bring 2 or 3 chickens in my neighborhood, does your code enforcement officer inform them of this or inform the state that they've got somebody with it's not registered?
We actually have started doing that with these chicken complaints. We've been working with MDA. Jim Thane has been doing that. So
Okay.
yes, actually that.
Because that's going to curb a lot of these issues once they find out they're going to get involved with the state having to fill out paperwork and do reporting and all that kind of
As
stuff.
some of the complaints have come in, depending on the numbers of chickens involved, not just this Westmore Sun Road site, but some of the others, yes, Jim has contacted MDA and asked for assistance on some of
Do
them.
they do inspections, MDA?
And then that I'm not certain.
I would suppose-
I can check and find out for you.
So is what Joe is, sorry, Shane, real quick, so is what Joe saying, does that mean the statute's already in existence and we just need to codify it in Wicomico County?
That just means that they have to register. It doesn't limit them.
State doesn't
Current state
limit.
law. I
Shannon?
think that when the city, which I voted against, wanted the chicken coops in the city, they had to have so many chickens, they limit how many they had to have. And they had to be in what you call chicken coops that, I think it was rised up off the ground. So I think one way is to limit how many they have. Now you have to realize also that people coming from different countries, they believe in the cockfighting, they believe in having goats in their yard. So the information that we want to share is that how we're going to get the information to the people that come here that do those things and let them know it's illegal. Or they're limited on how many chickens they can have and roosters. I would have 1 rooster and 5 chickens maybe. That's my thought. But anyway, I worry about how you can get the information out to people that do that in other countries, knowing that they can't do it here.
Municipalities seem to be really good about saying you can only have this many, or you can't have any.
Yeah, see, I would see what they do too.
Yeah.
What the city of Salisbury does.
Yeah. We've talked to some of them. We didn't know if the county, with us being a rural county, wanted to be that restrictive, but, I mean, if that would be the will of the body, then that's fine. But we more so were thinking, we are a rural county. Backyard chickens were a big thing, especially during COVID. It seemed like a lot of people, that seemed to be like the hot thing to do, especially when the price of eggs went up. People wanted to lay their, have hens lay their eggs. And but it seems like, we might not want to be that restrictive, but just looking at, again, like something like a good neighbor thing where we are keeping the containment, keeping it on your property, making sure that you have the proper way of keeping those animals contained.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I guess a couple of thoughts. First of all, the USDA may consider us a rural county, but we're 107,000 people that live here, a daily population of 170,000 people. That's pretty significant. These folks, where I'm looking, I don't know if all of these communities, but I'm looking at the one Parker Road, these other areas. These are people that are living just beyond the city, right? I'm sympathetic in the sense that they have to, that they're dealing with a terrible situation, but they should also be in the city if they're dealing with more of these issues. If you've got that unbelievable level of density, they should be in the city. I don't know if they're all on well and septic, or if they're on being served in any kind of way, but I don't know, and I acknowledge that, saying that I know we're going through our updates to our comp plan. I don't know if we're going to do any kind of comprehensive rezoning or any kind of relook at our zoning, but I do feel like maybe some of that could be tightened up in general. I guess the bigger question in my mind that I'm kind of throwing around is this, is this issue specific to chickens, or is this the general nuisance kind of a category? Mardello, I had my buddy RJ. I always stay at his house, and he had a pig that lived in his house and lived outside, and he had 2 pigs actually. But I've also had another friend, Jesse, and they had goats. And then, I know others that have had roosters or sheep or other ones that are not pets, and they're not currently included in the piece that I saw as far as our current code, if it says generally recognized as domestic. And that includes horses, cows, ponies, donkeys, burros, but that does not include, goats, right? Pigs, rooster, sheep, these other kind of ones. So I guess, is this a bigger issue of, that we're worried about chickens per se, or is this is this more of a general nuisance, that we should we build up separate code specific for chickens, or should we go maybe more in the direction of kind of the general nuisance? And I'm kind of leaning in that second category.
I think we need to focus on everything that's in 22561. I don't think it could just necessarily be about chickens. I think the biggest problem with chickens is that their tendency to get out and travel to other properties. And that's what's caused, the majority of the problems that we've had to entertain. I
think, not to really interrupt, just to capitalize on what she was saying or to piggyback off that, the other issue is too is that, no pun intended, yeah. The other issue is too is that when you have those residential areas that are really close to farms, a lot of the farmers that I've spoken with are concerned because of the backyard chickens. These in particular had disease. I mean, so they're getting out, and we're talking that can spread like wildfire through a flock, and then we're back, and so we just feel like as the county, we should be doing something to put some sort of provision in place. And again, whether that's just on chickens, or if we say, again, we just need to focus on containment. We need to make sure that you are containing whatever animals you would like to have, on your property, so I think it's really going to be up to you all on how it is,
Yeah, and I guess on closing on that note, and making sure that the landowner themselves isn't, you may have unwanted guests that are there. Like literally this morning, I went to go get my blood drawn at whatever the place is over there. In that, yeah, the blood drawing place. In doing so, I couldn't get in the door because of all the Canadian geese that are there. Like that. I'm using an example. I know they're different because they're protected, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, those are animals that choose to hang out in a given area, and there's not much that they can do about it. And so I guess I'm sure there would be landowners who don't want to be affected by something that they don't really have control over in the first place. But yeah.
So let's think about this, what Josh just said, and crossed my mind. And I'll use the example of Philip Morris Drive and Route 50. I don't know, is that where you were at somewhere? But anyway, there's a lot of geese around there. A lot of geese. You have to stop in the road sometimes. They don't make out too good on Mount Herman Road because people are going too fast. But so say somebody there wants some chickens, and we're telling them no, but the state's letting geese wander all over their property. So what do you do about those people? I mean, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here about treating people fair. The state can say geese can go anywhere they want and go on anybody's property they want because you can't bother them. We had that incident off Nanticoke Road where a guy shot a couple and he ended up, I think, in court or got fined. So what do we do about that? So Mr. Jones wants some chickens in his yard, but we're saying he can't have these chickens. But yet the state will let geese roam all over his property.
Just really quick, so the geese are a federal issue, and we've actually talked to Congressman Harris about that to try to thin the herd of the geese because they were causing a lot of issue, especially with disease. But jumping back to that, again, we're not trying to say somebody can't have chickens at all. Like, that's not what we're trying to say at all. We're trying to figure out, does our code need to be tightened up for our nuisance to be able to go out and do their job when people are calling in these complaints? It's more difficult, I think, for the planning and zoning, and I don't want to speak for you all, but it's difficult when they say, sorry, our code doesn't allow us to really go out and help you. So we're coming to the council to say, do we need to tighten up these regs? Is there something else that we can do? Do we talk about containment? Do we talk about minimizing the amount? These are all just questions to have, and nothing is drafted, nothing, this is just ideas to go off of. This is just a foundation, just an idea, of what we were thinking, so.
Well, the geese aren't owned by anybody in particular.
That's what I was gonna say.
They're free roaming.
No, they're owned by the state.
Okay.
No,
Really?
I mean, it's a little bit
Federal
different.
Not to drag it out.
Go
ahead. I think it's really simple.
Tracy,
the
could you come
council
back with something minimalist,
Yeah.
I mean, instead of 3 pages of giving assistance and subsidies to people to put in fences and.
I was
put it-
anticipating questions if somebody said, what if somebody can't afford a fence?
And microchips and chickens and.
So also keep, yes,
I agree.
we can do that. Also keep in mind that this, it says in here expressly that you can't raise animals, uses prohibited for sale as a business or commercial activity. So then that would beg the question, then like how many chickens and roosters do you really need? Right? If you're not selling eggs or you're not selling your hens or you're not doing, do you really need 50 in your backyard? If you really are just doing free-range backyard chickens, do you really need 50? And if you're going to have 50, isn't it reasonable to think that you should be able to contain them and that they're not in any way, destroying your neighbors? I mean, I've seen pictures where these roosters were literally destroying their landscaping.
I think that what we really, to try to wrap this up.
Yes.
I think everybody here, without doubt, doesn't want roosters, hens, and chickens interfering with the neighbors. So that's step one. The second one is we don't want all the noise from roosters day and night. That's it. So that's what this body would like to see, no different than the administration, no doubt about it. But it's going to have to be, it's not really going to be the council's decision, I think, to come up with these solutions, because you are the people who are actually on the ground day in and day out, taking the calls and recognizing every nuance of interference in the community. And with that knowledge and your understanding of zoning, if you could please put something together that you think will suffice, we'd be glad to take a look at that and then evaluate it for whatever feedback we get from our constituents as well.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I know you want to move, but can I ask just a couple of questions?
Yes, Bob, please.
So, Ms. Taylor, does 225-106 poultry houses, except as otherwise restricted, poultry may be kept, raised, or bred for the use of persons residing on the property, provided any structural enclosure not to include fencing does not exceed 256 square feet of gross floor area. Wouldn't this property on Parker Road have violated that?
I would say yes, without, I'm getting to that
so,
section.
and in addition,
But
under 225-61C, 225-61 C, animal quarters, all enclosures shall be entirely contained within the rear yard, shall be constructed so as to provide maximum protection against noise and odor. Clearly, it would have violated that.
Yes.
So there were provisions that he was in violation of already, correct?
We couldn't gain access
Well,
to the
but
back.
what are we going to do about to allow you to gain access?
That's one of the things that I guess I will have to look at when we get into this discussion. But in this case, we couldn't gain access to the backyard because we had no ability to even really fully see what was going on. When you asked the question about setbacks and the
You
structure.
can get a warrant, can't you?
If we had calls, that's why we went to the sheriff's department. I mean, we got a warrant. That's what we ended up doing.
I don't want to give away, but doesn't your office sometimes fly drones?
Yes, we did.
And you could have flown a drone over
Yes,
and seen what was in the
yes,
backyard.
we could have done
right?
that, yes.
But the other thing is too, is that if laws were in place where if we just went off of the chickens are all over the neighborhood and we kind of come back, okay, we need to look to see how are they being contained, then you kind of see, it almost grants you that access to show, okay, well, we have them contained, it just a couple got out or whatever else. So it
Which
just gives us a little bit.
Which leads to my next question, and that is, are you going to want to have a requirement for licensing? So if somebody wants to have backyard chickens, do they have to get a license so you all know they have it, so you know what they're doing as far as how many they've got? I'm not suggesting that, but I don't know how you know what's going on if you don't have licensing. And the other thing is, I understand that the conversation had to do with residential, and you were good enough to say R8, R15, R20, R30 maybe. I happen to live in a village conservation area. Would it apply to village conservation and town transition as well?
That's two of the ones that I have listed here with question marks. That would have to
Right.
be something that we would have to look at because of the difference in the nature of a town transition and village center district. Yes, we would have to look at that because then we do have, a mix of uses. So we would have to take a close look at that.
And,
I just think today was just more so, is this something that you are looking for?
Right.
Is the council looking to move forward with something and we can bring you the items to sort of move forward with it? If there was no entertainment whatsoever, we were just going to kind of leave it and kind of go as is, so.
something,
Hey, Bobby has the most.
No, that's it.
I was going to say something much more simpler. Yeah.
That's fine.
All right.
Anticipated a lot of questions, James.
Signs. Signs in the public right-of-way.
Okay.
This is a good topic. Josh, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. We've all seen it, and so we want to kind of solve it. I think, I mean, is there not a consensus that no one in this council really likes seeing the signs in the right-of-way like that? Like, we buy your house and all that?
I mean, my dad has put a business sign in one of the right-of-ways, but I'm not for it. I'm not for it.
I got some questions about this because what do we know what the right-of-way is? And I called Lee Outen this morning to try to get a grip on what is the county right-of-ways. Some of them are 15 foot from the center, some of them are 20, some of them are 30, and some of them are 50. So how do we know when somebody just pops a sign up along the road if it's in the county right-of-way or not? Okay. Lee said county roads and planning and zoning worked on this probably 10, 15 years ago. And once you go after them for a little while, pulling up signs that you deem to be illegal, that kind of takes care of itself for a while. And he says now it seems to be coming back. So how would you determine if somebody was out riding around? How would you determine? Okay, Forest Grove Road, for an example, was 15 foot from the center until you get to the south end of it by Route 50, where not Senate Heights, but that development is just on the south side of Route 50. I think he said it's 50-foot right-of-way there. It depends on when the land was transferred. So how are you going to tell if it's actually, if somebody goes out and sticks a sign up, and you go take their sign, and it's 2 foot on their property, we've taken their sign. How are you going to determine? How are you going to make that decision? Who's going to make that decision to stake that sign?
So
You're good. That's fine. I didn't mean to put it on you, but
So, we've seen this too, and I've actually taken some pictures of some intersections where there's dozens of signs, just littered with signs. I talked with Clark, and I think, is Clark? Oh, he's not here. I talked with Clark, and he did tell me that they really took a hard stand on this several years ago and just started pulling up signs, and then they would hold them maybe out at county roads, and if somebody wanted to claim them in a period of time.
that's what
they had to
State
claim
Highway
them.
does.
Right. I think that there's a lot of things that we would have to be very aware of before we did this. One of the things that the county executive and I talked about was right out of the gate, there would have to be some type of press release to say, this is what the county's going to start doing effective this date, to give people an opportunity to get their signs up. That would be the first notice. Then, like you said, once signs started being taken up, I think you would start to see, a decrease in the amount that were put out. We have GIS capability to be able to determine, and we would, if we were going to do this, it's not just like they're a random here and a random there. There seem to be key areas where these are concentrated, and we would focus on those first. So if we were deliberately going to enforce this provision of the zoning code, we would know before we went out what the right-of-way measurement would be, and we would be able to ascertain that. That wouldn't be an issue. We would never just randomly go out and pull up a sign without knowing that it was absolutely in the right-of-way, and we have the capability to determine that ahead of time.
So we go back to the old adage I brought up a while ago. We don't have enough help right now to take care of the problems we already have. How are we going to enforce this?
I'm being honest with you, you're right. I don't have enough nuisance staff as it is. I wouldn't have somebody going out and doing it just this one task. But what we would do is if we identified an area and it coincided with a nuisance complaint or it coincided with a building inspection, I could have my inspectors pick it up. I could have nuisance officers pick it up.
So, go ahead, James.
I was going to say, could you have, when they cut the grass, pull them out of the ground?
That's a good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that, James. This could be a combined effort between roads and planning and zoning. It wouldn't just need to be planning and zoning.
Yeah.
It could be roads as well.
Sometimes they just cut the signs up too.
But I wanted to also bring this to your attention because if we were to enforce, because I think we already have the ability to enforce this. If we enforced it in the way that is, is concerning to all of us and we were to start to remove these, there are numerous nonprofit signs, I know you've all seen them, that were just recently done that are all over, at least my side, southeast side of the county, that I'm sure that individual would be very upset and you would hear from them. And that's why when this was brought up, I felt like we had the ability already to enforce it. But I just wanted to give you the heads up that you're going to start hearing from nonprofit groups, and then even the Wicomico group that cleans litter. As soon as they clean an area, they put up their signs. I think Andrew and I discussed this the other day. This provision does give someone the authority to get permission from the Department of Public Works to post a sign. So like if the group that cleans an area and they want to say we clean this area and they want to put those signs up and they get permission ahead of time and we give them a time frame for when they have to go back and remove the sign, which that's not in here now, but Public Works could impose that, we could work with them. The ones we wouldn't be able to work with, obviously, would be, we're going to power wash your house, or we buy junk cars, or we buy homes, or, there's any number of those everywhere. They're the commercial advertisements.
Said that you were going out there before, so if you have Clark that's already been out doing this 3 or 4 years ago, we have all the laws in place that we need. Maybe a distinction between commercial signs are not legal and nonprofits are legal for a particular period of time for temporary, like, the chicken barbecues down in Allen and the signs that they put up. You certainly don't want to take those down. So I don't know if there's anything in the statute right now about nonprofit versus commercial, but I think commercial is a real problem.
Yeah, we don't need to distinguish. Again, there's an exception that allows the Department of Public Works to grant permission. And so if the chickens they're gonna have the chicken barbecue that weekend, and they say, we want to run it for 7 days before, and we'll take it within 24 hours of after it being down, great, approve it. Put it in,
Stacy
people
says-
know where they're gonna go.
We have to get word out to the public that this is the new law and this is what you have to do. I don't know whether you make sure through social media, we start a huge campaign in making that effort get out, whether it be advertising on television and in other media sources. But
Let's not spend too much money. I think it's just,
No,
this is the law.
just hypothetical.
We can do it at council meeting. It's a work session right now. If this is the direction everyone's okay with actually enforcing the law that's on the books, 30 days from now, pick November 1st. After November 1st, if we see your sign the right of way, it's getting picked up, it's going here. If you're a nonprofit, then contact Department of Public Works about putting up your sign, and we'll know exactly the location, the time range it can be there, and if it's not, and then everyone else can pick up their signs, they'll be held for 30 days or something like that, and then they're gonna end up in the landfill.
And I think
Is part of the statute already that commercial is not allowed? Okay, so I think as far as
it's
legislative,
any sign in the right of way.
I think legislative, we need to create a distinction between commercial and nonprofit.
I agree.
And then nonprofits would be allowed, but they have to register as is already, I'm assuming, in the statute or the code or whatever it is.
We could do that. We could make a text amendment to that effect for your review. But are you going to make the distinction between a nonprofit that's advertising an event versus a nonprofit that's advertising their commercial business, even though they're a nonprofit? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Well, they would still have to have permission from you to do that.
But
And you could deny permission.
So I think,
you know what I'm
what-
getting at.
so what I would strongly encourage is to allow the executive department to enforce the law that's on the books. We'll pick a date, notify the public that this is the date, signs in the right of way, this provision of the chapter is going to be enforced, and come up with internal rules and regulations. There's a consensus to not allow any commercial. And then as to nonprofit, it'll be at the discretion for the length of time, depending on the type of event. So the individuals that just cleaned a segment of the roadway, that might go up for 30 or 45 days. I don't know how long they're currently staying up. I know they're always out there cleaning, and thank them for donating their time. And that will be internally worked. If it's not working, then council can always introduce legislative bill to modify it or to codify what is working if necessary. But if we go the legislative bill route, unfortunately, between first reading, public hearing advertisement, second reading, signature to the executive, 60 days later, we're 180 days from ever actually implementing what's already in the book. So we can use those 6 months, begin to enforce it. If somebody wants to come forward and say, you know, I think a tough one's going to be, and maybe we can get some input now, Habitat for Humanity, the Restore. It's a store, but it's a store that benefits a nonprofit. I've seen a strong proliferation of those
I
in
think,
recent.
honestly, my personal opinion, it should be for temporary events only.
Okay.
I just don't see how you can have the right to go to the county right away and put a permanent sign up.
Absolutely.
Temporary events is,
Not only that, Habitat
Everybody-
for
yeah.
Humanity competes against other businesses.
well, we seem to have a consensus, nothing against Habitat for Humanity.
No,
but
no,
it would have to be a
it's-
temporary,
but it's commercial.
nonprofit, commercial, temporary.
Temporary
nonprofit,
events,
temporary.
nonprofit, commercial. Perfect.
Would it be in our best interest to save time and maybe money? By the way, we've never told you not to enforce the law. I know
No.
you said something about we're giving you permission to do, I don't know who said that.
No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it wasn't that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just anticipated, when this was brought up, I felt like we already had the ability
Right.
to take care of it, but when you do that as something that's been allowed to go for a
Right.
period of time, you were going to get the backlash from that if we just started going and taking signs. I
So-
just thought it was more fair to do a kind of a press release, joint press release to say, this is what our plan is, and try to
So
you know,
these
minimize that.
These signs have phone numbers on them, most of them.
Yes.
Okay. And yourself, you know, Tony, whoever's working, Clark, whatever, if they're riding down the road and they see a sign, would it be okay to just call that number and say, hey, you know, I'm calling from the county and you got signs placed out here and it's illegal? That's one good way for them to know that it's illegal, because they're pretty sure going to answer that phone.
A lot of work though, Joe.
Just dialing a phone number?
Do we need to do anything with state legislation? I'm assuming it's state legislation that says it's only $5, was it $25 fine? Is that a state or is that county?
It's state. It was a civil
State.
penalty.
Civil penalty. Should we try to get our delegation to increase that to 500 or something, just so we have leeway, we don't have to go back to them in 20 years? Should we?
law against
I mean,
nailing
that's
to a
from like probably
telephone pole
1910.
Is there
What?
some law against nailing signs to electric pole or telephone?
That seems like what's up the legislature's alley, doing nothing.
Yeah, well, I think we should do that, because I think it's probably an antiquated law, and we should increase that amount, because $25 is not going to pay for the manpower it's going to take to make all these phone calls or to follow up on all this, or even to go out and get them.
I have a question. And I know it's a city thing, I think, because Nail and Mill Road and Salisbury's in the county. And I think someone from the administration should contact the city. We have children begging at the four-way stop sign. It's not safe, and people don't know where to go, how to turn. You don't know what to do. You just have to sit and wait your turn, I guess. Some people don't know, they go through. But kids are with buckets.
Seen 'em.
You've seen them? And I think that the administration should contact whoever in the city that they need to put a stop of that, because it's dangerous for anybody to be standing on that corner, just standing there running to cars and all that stuff.
Senator Croza had a bill for.
They did have a
Some of
bill,
that,
but they
maybe
need
that could be
to enforce it, especially on Nail and Mill Road, because that's a lot of traffic on Nail and Mill Road.
Yeah, how about yard sale signs?
We have a provision for temporary signs.
Oh, do you? Okay, all right.
And you're suggesting roads is going to probably be, do you need anything, you know, with your inner workings, you don't need anything from us to define whose responsibility it's going to be? Would that be something the administration has to decide, as whether roads is going to be picking them up or
Yes.
public works?
We'd have to work, yes. I still think I think it would be a combination. I think it would be a team effort.
But you all work that out yourself?
Yeah, we would work that out,
Josh?
obviously.
Just last piece, I guess. first of all, I appreciate everybody bringing this and thinking it through. I think we've all had people contact us about this issue and this situation, and it looks like it's only getting worse, and I think that's why we kind of brought it up. I guess the only other questions I know I'm going to hear, political signs are another one of those. I know that there were state laws or there were federal. I don't know if that's still, how much of that's still in place, but, we're going into campaign season. I know when I drive through Linkwood, I see the Trump sign that's been up there for 5 years, never been taken down. It is stapled to the utility pole itself, or it is whatever. I guess that's part, but I know that that's part of the equation that people are going to ask us about, and I don't want to look hypocritical as opposed as we go into campaign season. But I guess with that being said, overall, I think this bigger issue for me is just the fact that it's become more like litter, and so many of these are they're getting run over, and then the plastic's just being cut up and then going everywhere, and it makes a bad problem worse. So I think, to Council President's point, I think if we need to go, if we need state help there increasing the fine, then so be it. I think that's probably a good idea, just because we've got to do something. These are, and what you saw in the pictures that we sent around, many of these are not local businesses. These are Delaware businesses. They don't care what happens, what we do. And we may be close to another state, but that doesn't mean that they need to dump their signs or that kind of litter. If I were to take this wastebasket of trash and just throw it out the window on the side of the road, I should be getting a fine. I feel like the same kind of way with many of these commercial businesses that, they don't care. They don't work here. They're just trying to, profit maximize.
Would it be a trash violation? If this is illegal for them to do it, would it then become a trash violation if they put the sign up?
Let's cross that when we need to get to it.
Okay. Dave? Yes.
Just a comment, follow up on Joe's enforcement questions. Joe?
Yep. Hang on a second.
Just following up on something you had said so he can direct your attention down here. Past experience with zoning is typically by complaint. That's when enforcement happens. And Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see you're nodding. If we were to pass the chicken legislation, I expect it would probably also be by complaint. However, the signs, if we do, somebody will need to be out there proactively, I assume, looking for those areas and in fairness, looking at all areas. So back to the resources issue, it may be shared between roads and planning and zoning, but to your point, have you got an idea of who might be doing that, and do you have the manpower to do that?
I do. For our department, I can't speak for Scott and his department. We haven't really talked about this yet because, again, I wanted to meet with council first. I talked to the county executive and wanted to talk with you. Our building inspectors are all over the county, and they see things daily. So some of these things we wouldn't have to actually go to that point. It would be en route to something else or seeing something else. So if they saw something, usually when a building inspector goes to a site, they're not going to just go there one time. They're probably going to go there 2 to 3 times. So if they see something like that, they'll come back and report it. Then we can do, as I suggested to Joe, we can check the right-of-way distance, make sure we're within our right to take the sign, and then on their next visit out that they could take it. Same way with our nuisance officers. They're all over the county, and we would do the same there.
You've already got plenty of eyes and ears out there.
Right. It wouldn't be an effort of where I would send somebody out on any given day just to look for signs. It would be in conjunction with some other duty that they're already doing. The yard sale question, it's 5 days prior and 5 days after, and then it has to be removed. The election question is a little different because it does say signs erected in connection with elections or political campaigns shall be permitted provided the signs are unlighted or indirectly lighted. The sign shall not exceed 32 square feet. The sign meets all applicable state and federal regulations, but it doesn't have the same provision for removal as a simple yard sale sign does.
And what if they're in a government office building?
I can't respond to that.
Gotcha. Good question. Good answer.
Yeah, I think the most onerous part of this is going to be the citations and the enforcement, not picking up the signs. Following up, I don't agree with making phone calls to their numbers, but following up with the penalty phase and enforcement.
That's why I think if we were to do a joint press release, if we get to that point where you want to do that, we set a date, like Andrew said, and in that date, we say that they'll be confiscated by the state, they'll be held at this location for X amount of days, and then if no one comes to claim them, then, we recycle them or we dispose of them. We can't obviously hold them forever.
Mr. President,
Sorry, Bob.
can I go, I wanted to go back to the chicken thing for 1 second. Can I make the suggestion that we look to see if there's some sort of community groups that these people who have neighborhood chickens belong to, and maybe contact them to have input from them to try to avoid a situation we had with the kennel legislation, so that we talk to them in advance. We may not agree with them, but at least they have input in it.
Department of Ag ought to have a listing of that in the.
I have no idea whether there's such a group, but there seems like there's a group for everything, so.
Everyone's got chickens.
We good? Everybody's good? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll call that the Hastings bill.
Right.
Entertain a motion to adjourn to go into a closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Favor?